think mine is on. Lloyd, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, there we go.
Yay!
Thank you.
We did turn talk last night here, but some people don't put their phone on mute.
Yes, that's
Oh,
so annoying.
yeah.
It sounds like they're
We got it. Yeah, it's working now. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I figured we know.
Bard,
I didn't know how to. I figured
I got the FedEx envelope today for the contracts for the engineering. The three. Yeah, but he needs three originals for our signature, so I'll get Ron to sign up Tuesday and then send it to Lloyd. Well, I'm only gonna have Ron sign one, and then I'll have Lloyd sign that one, so they'll all be on the same page, then we'll stick it in.
I mean, maybe clarify with him who needs what
You do?
stuff to it, and are you just doing one?
So how many people do we have on?
It's the,
Can you see? How many people do we have on?
There's a couple places that do it, Calvin, but it's really difficult.
not showing. Let me-
Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Braden,
Here.
Mr. Blades,
Here.
Ms. Stevens,
Here.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
here.
5 present, we have a quorum.
Motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Braden,
Aye.
Mr. Blades,
Aye.
Ms. Stevens,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, if you'll stand with me, we will do the pledge. I'll lead the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you please remain standing?
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful for the opportunity we have of living in this great community, and we're thankful that Thou hast protected this community from this coronavirus, and that we've had so little effect on our community. We pray that we might be able to do our duty today and to pass those things and vote on those things that we need to approve. And please watch over and bless us that we will continue to keep our community safe. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay. The city attorney's report.
Madam Mayor, this is Lloyd Pilchin. There was no closed session today, so nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay. The next item is public comment. Persons wishing to address the council on items that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear in the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on any item that does not appear in the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Is there a speaker? Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing. I don't understand why we're following Newsom on this.
Pardon me? I didn't hear him.
I'm sorry, Peggy. I don't understand why we're following Newsom on this. I get that there are some laws or whatever, but we are losing all of our businesses. We have already lost Casey's Steakhouse, Advanced Transit, Triple T's said that they are closed indefinitely. We will not survive this if we do not open. Ridgecrest needs to stand up against the governor, along with Kern County or whoever else, and tell them that we cannot keep this up. We are losing all of our businesses. People are going to be hurting from this for years. So we need to reopen. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. You are aware that many of our businesses are already open that can, and others are coming along as we go into phase
I'm aware
3.
that there are certain things. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Is there another speaker?
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Neither did I.
I'm not sure I understand.
Stop.
They're on the line.
I don't know, she's on mute. Is there another speaker?
Hello, yes, this is James Anos, calling to endorse the reopening of recreational activities, especially the youth sporting programs. I know the situation is difficult, but given the nature of most of the recreational programs in Ridgecrest, it seems like the risk, particularly to our youth, is pretty minimal, especially with outdoor activities. And with IWV football right around the corner, I think that's an opportunity for us to really send a message to say we're going to be back on track, and not let us hold us down or prevent any progress, especially with our youth programs.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything else to say, or were you just making that statement, sir?
I was just calling to endorse it. I think it's really important for our community to not only proceed safely, but also, provide an outlet for our youth. They've been cooped up for a number of days, and it seems like we have an opportunity now to get back on track. And I just hope that the city and city leadership can get behind the idea and make sure that we, proceed safely first and foremost, but also recognize that the risk seems fairly low at this point. So I guess it's just a statement, but I just wanted to call and provide the support for our youth programs, and particularly football and cheerleading.
Thank you. We all agree. Thank you. I believe we all agree that we miss that and need it. Thank you. Is there another speaker?
Hello?
Please go ahead and identify yourself and speak.
Yes, my name is Mike Neal, and I have a few things I'd like to speak to today. First off, I observed from newspaper articles that the Daily Independent apparently has gotten to be on the business end of Ron Strand not wanting information to get out. Now, let's let everybody in town know that this is not an isolated incident. There are several of us who have been involved for years and years, and we regularly ask for various kinds of information. And if city manager doesn't want you to have it, he just isn't going to give it to you. It doesn't matter if it's the kind of information that's supposed to be available. They, either flat out just don't give it to you and make up some excuse that really does not meet the provisions of the Public Records Act, or they delay and delay and delay and delay, hoping that you'll get sick of waiting. So I hope the next time they do this to the Daily Independent, like I said on their Facebook page, the Daily Independent immediately files suit against them. They'll be forced to submit the information, and then they'll have to pay the DI's attorney costs. So we need to have an end to this non-transparency that's been going on around it for quite some time. The other thing is, I was just talking to a fellow citizen out in town yesterday, and the subject came up about people's various police encounters, some good, some not so good. And it made me realize something I thought about before, and I'd like to strongly suggest and hope somebody will take this up. We hear from all of the city departments on a regular basis. We do not hear from the police department much at all. But the only time we hear is when we get the pitch for how much money they want in the budget cycle. There's not any really good reason we can't get regular information from the police department more particularly talking about crime trends, things that, tend to be changing, maybe crimes that tend to be increasing, a look at the crime statistics and the upturns and downturns in that and so forth. Make it at, a regular interval to the city council, and then maybe the papers will then pick that up and get this out to the public. I think, for a department that spends, I believe, over half of our city budget, people deserve to hear from them on a lot more regular basis. So I hope that at least a few of you will seriously consider this.
Is that the end of your comments, sir?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Ron, did you want to say anything about that? Because I know there's another side of it.
Madam Mayor, it's probably not appropriate to address this during public comment. It's not public debate. I can address these items during my city manager comment.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there any other callers who wish to speak? Caller, please identify yourself and ask your question or comment.
Yeah, this is Dave Matthews, and I wanted to make a point here that I still need a haircut and I still need a pedicure. And this is the 22nd of May. This has gone on too long. We should be meeting down there in the council chambers right now. Not this session is working out better than some, but still there's this delay problem and there's a few other problems, but we need to be meeting again. You people down there, I'm not sure how much you hear about what's happening nationally, but there are people that are really getting, and excuse my French, screwed over by authorities or people who claim to have authority that do not have authority. And I read a letter from an email, actually, from Ron Porter, and maybe he'll be speaking up here later, I don't know, or maybe he already has. And I agree 100% with what he has to say, and if you haven't seen it, contact me and I can get a copy to you, but I think it went to everybody down there, or on the council at least. And there's other things where you people just got to wake up and realize what is happening. The left, the communists, to put it blankly, are taking over this country by fear and by edict. So get your act together, stand up to the governor, and tell them you want to meet again, and some of these restrictions are being lifted this weekend, but not enough. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next caller. Do I assume there's no other callers?
He's waiting.
All right, caller, please identify yourself and make a question or comment.
Hi, this is Mike Stafford with IWV Football and Cheer. Just calling to support the opening, really mainly in support of our local businesses. Our program is, we're not sure what the status of it is based on the nature of our league. We still fall under county rules and stuff like that. But as far as businesses go, our sponsorships don't come from Home Depot and Walmart. They come from Snow and Etosh's and Mathers, Griffin's, Ice Shacks, IWV Construction, Casey's, Abatoys, stuff like that are local that we're losing. It's going to be an uphill battle for the programs no matter what because of this, but it cuts into our equipment costs, our insurance costs, our field fees. our helmets are in Arizona right now. We're just waiting for us to be able to pay and pick them up. We haven't been collecting fees because we don't know if we're going to be returning money. This could be a detriment to a lot of programs here in town if we don't open up soon. So I just really wanted to support the opening so we can get the businesses back in order.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments, well reflective of what I've heard. Any other comments, or are you done with yours, sir? Okay, thank you. Okay, caller, please identify yourself and make your comment or questions, please.
Hi, this is Chip Holloway, CEO of Desert Empire Fairgrounds. I just want to encourage you guys to get this city back open. As you know, we've been making desperate pleas on behalf of the fairgrounds in the last couple of weeks. We are on life support like many other businesses in the community. We also depend on those businesses, just like the last caller, for sponsorships and volunteerism and you name it. And the only reason we exist is because of those sponsorships and volunteers over the last few years. But I've listened to about 25 calls with the state and 78 other fairgrounds, and it seems like we're getting a lot of the pass the buck situation where they're deferring to county health departments and cities and likewise. And there seems to be some semblance that if a local jurisdiction has less of a burden than a state rule, we might be allowed to do some things that the government might not necessarily allow in other cases. So we need some cities in this state to show leadership, and you guys need to step up and start the momentum with other cities like Atwater and get us open, but because some people don't have the courage to do it. I think this city and this council has that courage, so I encourage you guys to step up and get this city open as soon as possible. And I thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great Memorial Day, you guys.
Thank you. You all too.
Bye.
So I do plan on bringing that up during the COVID update.
Right.
Okay.
Where? Caller, please identify yourself and ask your question or make your comment, please.
Yeah, this is Chuck Ruland. Just wanted to recommend that the...
Identify yourself and ask your question or make your comment, please.
This is Chuck Ruland. Can you hear me?
Yes. Much better now. Yeah, take it off the TV. Thank you,
Okay.
Chuck.
Okay, anyways, I just wanted to make the recommendation that the city open business as usual, keep nothing closed. None of this direction that we're receiving from Newsom makes any sense at all, no matter who you are or how you feel about it. You've got checkers at Walmart and Home Depot in direct contact with hundreds of people all day long, okay, sharing money, touching credit cards, and we can't have a barber that sees 10 people a day, 15 people a day cut hair. Complete insanity. We're getting led off a cliff, and we're just taking it, in my opinion. I think we need to stand up and open up for multiple reasons. I mean, essential business, what's essential? Chiropractors can stay in business as massage therapists can't. My mom needs massage therapy. She doesn't need chiropractor. I need a chiropractor. I don't need massage therapy. We're just being led. Actually, we're not even being led. We have no direction. A lot of people don't have any clue what's even going on when something new comes out. For example, today Trump says all the churches can open. Can all the churches open? Are all the churches going to be open on Sunday? Or, you know, what, if we're not enforcing anything, which we're not, there's a few businesses that are already open, and thankfully they're not going in and shutting them down. Let's just flat out say it. We don't plan on shutting them down. Anybody that opens can remain open. If you have a state license before this nonsense, your license is still good, and you're going to be able to do business. If the state wants to come down and do whatever they got to do, send the National Guard to arrest a barber, then so be it. I mean, if we don't have enough money right now to do the things that we're trying to do, why should we be spending our money taking direction from this guy? You know, it's just insane. I never thought I'd see anything so ridiculous, but it seems to get more ridiculous every day. I think this is an opportunity for all your guys' legacies to actually mean something. We're at a point here where we're not talking about some silly little thing. We're having bureaucrats with guaranteed paychecks shut down honest businesses, and in some cases arresting them. Every council member up there right now should say everybody's open. 3 of the council members are open. That's really all I got to say. I mean, it's a train wreck, and I'm watching it happen. And thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm sorry, did I cut you off? Okay, thank you. No other callers? Okay, we will turn off the time for public comments for items not on the agenda, and we will make a council announcement that next Wednesday, May 27th at 6 o'clock, there will be a virtual town hall meeting, a virtual budget workshop meeting scheduled here, unless the stay-at-home order is lifted, and we don't know that that's going to happen yet.
He's turning you on right now. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, Madam Mayor, I was going to ask during my city manager comment for us to move that meeting to June 4th.
June 4th.
Correct. This is
Okay.
it's a Memorial Day weekend. I do believe we're going to be able to present council with a balanced budget, but the numbers are changing daily. We did get an update on our highway user fees, taxes yesterday, so we're making adjustments for that. This will give staff time to be able to go back, make the necessary adjustments, get our presentations prepared. And so I'm requesting that we move that special workshop to June 4th on a Thursday, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever time is convenient for council.
So we'll still have our council meeting on the 3rd, and then we'll meet again the 4th.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so I take that back. We're not having the budget workshop on the 27th. It will be June 4th.
And then what time? And so do you think, like, do we need 5 o'clock so that we can get through it all, or will we be able to get through it all at 6 o'clock?
What day is the 24th?
Thursday. I'd probably recommend 5 o'clock. I know that all of the departments will be discussing what their past year accomplishments were, what their plans for the following year is, and it'll also give us time. I would assume that this may take, we should be able to get it done in one meeting, but if council has questions, it may have to go into 2. I mean, obviously, this is just a workshop to council, and if council wishes to, obviously, request for more information, request for changes in priorities, request for us to look at other projects and priorities, that is the council's time to do so. And so normally we would take that input from council at that time and then set another meeting to come back to report to council, and then hopefully by the end of the month or the second meeting in June we'll have a budget ready to be approved by council.
Okay, so is 5 o'clock still okay with everyone then? Okay, looks like 5 o'clock is a good time. Thank you. Okay, council announcements. Is there any? Did we have a public comment who didn't get to make their public comment? Caller, would you please identify yourself and make your comments, please? Caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, please identify yourself and make your comments or questions.
My name is Scott Henson. I'm just calling to
kind of reiterate what everyone else is saying. I think it's time to open up without any restriction. We were asked to give 3 weeks to flatten the curves. We did that. I think a lot of people respected that and did what they were supposed to do. But it's been over 2 months now, or 2 months, and the amount of people who have been sick, it just doesn't match the shutdown and the extreme shutdown that we're currently going through. It's killing small business. It's so inconsistent that hundreds of people can go to Walmart and Home Depot and Albertsons every day. Can't get a haircut, can't go into certain small business. It makes no sense. I encourage you guys to open up and open up immediately. I know that if I would have known we were going to model our city government after Newsom and his political views, I wouldn't have voted for the people I voted for. Please listen to the people and vote and open up as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Okay, now we are on to council announcements. Is there any council who'd like to make an announcement?
Peggy, I have 2 announcements.
All right, go ahead.
So the first one is that our Coffee with the City meeting went rather well. I appreciate you, Ron Strand, calling in and supporting that. That was nice, and it's a good opportunity for people to call in over Zoom. I send out the link on social media and to the DI. They try to get it out there. It's just an opportunity for people to engage with at least one city council member, and in the future, of course, one other person can do it with me, or 2 council members can take it over from me. I will send you my Zoom account information, whatever we need to do. It's something that I personally would like to keep going so people feel like they have more access to us, since right now we can't have people here physically. It's just trying to do something. The second announcement is a public comment, but since I'm a council person, I wanted to wait until now. I'm reading this on behalf of John Harper with the IWV Youth Baseball Sponsorship. He's a baseball sponsorship director. His questions for the council. Last meeting, Mr. Strand had stated that the word surplus when asked about our current city budget. Could he please clarify what he meant, as well as explain where essentially the rainy day fund came from? In addition, if he could please give status on our current city budget, such as shortfalls in tax revenue and potential shortfalls for quarter 3 and 4, if any, in a status of Parks and Rec funding. Second portion, since most of our small businesses have taken a tremendous revenue hit due to CV-19, which are our lifeblood to youth sports sponsorships, will our city leaders be contacting the directors of Walmart, Home Depot, Albertsons, and Stater Brothers, since they have been open for business the entire time and have had record-setting sales and income, to step in and help sponsor our youth sports programs? I also want to thank all of our small businesses for the support they give to the youth sports programs. Without all of you, we wouldn't have what we do. And thank you to the Mather family, as well as Casey's Barbecue, for all you have done for youth sports. Wishing the best to them in these hard times. I would be more than happy to volunteer my time to assist in any way possible to see that our youth sports program did not fall victim to this shutdown from a financial standing. End of my comments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any other council comments or council announcements? Okay, then we will go on to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff. Consent items are approved with one motion if no member of the council or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from the consent calendar and will be considered in listed sequence with the opportunity to make for any member of the public to address the city council concerning that item before action is taken. Do any members of the council wish to have one item pulled or any item pulled? And there are just one. It is the proposed action to approve the draft minutes of the City of Ridgecrest City Council Successor Redevelopment Agency Financing Authority and Housing Authority regular meeting dated May 6th. Is there anyone from the council who would like to have that one pulled? Is there any member from the public who would like to have that item pulled? I see none. So a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Mr. Blades.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. The next item is an update on the local COVID-19 response. Mr. Strand.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Yes, I agree that the shutdown of the entire country and including our community has been extremely detrimental. It first started off as a safety issue. I still think it is a safety issue to some degree in how we reopen. And it has always been an emotional issue, either an emotional issue that fear of the unknown of the virus and infection, and now the growing concern that what the shutdown's done to our way of life and our communities. Currently, we have been a very fortunate community. To date, we have had 6 positive cases within our community. That's up from 2 weeks ago. And in talking to Mr. Suver, we're not too sure where those positive cases have come from. They did not come through the local hospital. Countywide, there's been 1,644 positive cases and then 25 deaths, primarily at the 2 skilled nursing centers in Bakersfield. Now, the governor came out a couple weeks ago and stated that there was the ability for individual counties to apply for a variance to be able to proceed through stage 2 in a much quicker way. Well, when it initially came out, the county of Kern did not qualify because the bar was set way too high. However, with the help of all of our local county hospitals, including Ridgecrest Regional Hospital, as well as Mr. Suver, drafted a letter through the county and requested a change in how the variance was determined. And based upon that, that change was made, and subsequently, the county has submitted their variance and was approved as of Wednesday. And what that means now is that a lot of the businesses that were closed are now able to reopen, but they're to reopen under certain safety guidelines. One of the particular things that will happen here over the next couple of days, and I know that Melissa Anchetta went out and reached out to 20 of our restaurants yesterday. So we hand-delivered all of the guidelines to all of our restaurants yesterday. So one of the things that I think we have done from the very beginning has been extremely proactive in working with the Chamber of Commerce and keeping our businesses informed, as well as information from the council and staff, including the police department, on all the information that's coming out. So for folks to say that there wasn't an outreach, and I don't think this is a general opinion from any but a few, that the city hasn't been proactive in keeping up with and making sure our businesses know and having an extreme concern about our economy and specifically our small business owners. I know that even our local banks went out of their way to apply and qualify for the PPP loans. And I know that several of our small businesses have received those loans. And I know that the county just on Tuesday approved another loan process for small businesses with less than 50 employees and less than $5 million in retail sales throughout the year can qualify. This information should be available sometime next week, and I know that Melissa Anchetta is working with the Chamber of Commerce, and as soon as that information is available, we're going to get it out to our small businesses. So we know that our small businesses have been affected, and we're doing everything we can under our control to help them get open. And one of the examples was, the hospitals banding together and at least allowing the variance, for our county to qualify for that variance. And like I said, since we've got it. So now what we're looking at is all of our restaurants can now have in dining. Now it's limited. It's under certain guidelines. There's certain things that they have to follow. I know that, Denny's is open today. I know that Casa Corona plans to be open on Tuesday, so those are opening up. All the other businesses that didn't make any sense, like the florist shop that you had to have curbside delivery or online pickup, now can have customers into their store under certain guidelines. But there are some businesses that are still locked down for whatever reason. Still the hair salons, the churches, movie theater. But I suspect that as the public becomes more passionate about the economy being shut down and things not opening back up, and as long as the infection rate continues to lower or stay the same, we will be able to open up a lot quicker. And I think one of the things that we've been working on in the community, and I think that Mr. Sewer at the hospital has taken the lead on, is making sure that we have the proper ability to test those who want to test. And I know we worked with the county, and I know Mick Leeson and the County Board of Supervisors, as well as the Health Department, did a great job of getting free testing to our community. So no matter who you are, what you are, you don't have to have a doctor's note. You can come through, make an appointment, get tested, and give you peace of mind. It also allows us to control any outbreaks of infection that may come into this community, especially when we start looking at opening our community up. So, when will we reach stage 3? I have no idea. Hopefully, sooner than better. I do know for at least one of the city programs, the summer camps, now that we're in upper phase, stage 2, we will be able to put on the summer camps. It will cost us a little bit more in funding to hire an extra position to be able to make sure that we're following the county guidelines to do so. So we will have one program that will be able to be open. As for contact sports with the youth, I know that Mr. Patton is in touch with his counterparts throughout the state and within the county almost on a daily basis to figure out when we can open up under the current guidelines. And we're hoping, I hope baseball, I hope it might be too late for baseball. I hope football, can open up. I know we shut down all of our programs. Our parks are still open. And as you know, we took a lot of pressure from a lot of folks to close our parks and barricade them with tape, and I just didn't think that brought about a good perception. And I think it lent itself to conflict, and I think conflict would lend itself to risky behavior. And I think that because we didn't, folks acted responsibly. I know that we have to be concerned about our number one employer, and that's NAS China Lake. And I know that the information that I have received is that China Lake is extremely conservative and extremely concerned about how they reopen their workforce. And I know that there's the thought of the city declaring itself a sanctuary city, and I understand the frustration for that. But I also say that reading some of the emails that are coming out to the employees, it also makes me pause for concern that, if we as a city tell everybody to open up and allow contact sports, allow bars to be open, in just open violation of the governor's orders, what will that do to our number one employer and their confidence to reopen that base? And I will say that the small businesses are hurting now. But what happens if the base doesn't allow travel? What if they restrict testing? Our TOT is extremely low. We were down below 10%, and I believe we're coming up a little bit. But what if for the next 6 months, instead of being at 70, 80, 90% during the week, we're at 10 or 15% because nobody's traveling here because the confidence in our community is that we're not responsible. So there is a balance. I do agree we should open up. I don't always agree with everything that I hear that you can't get your hair cut. I understand there's probably an underground market of hairdressers going around door to door cutting people's hair, so it's happening anyway. But we still have to be responsible. We still have to be the community that follows the rules. Now, we've been working extremely diligent behind the scenes with the county health and expressing all the community's concerns about us being closed and the effect on our economy, the effect on our communities, and whether it be emotional. But we also have to look at the other side of the coin, is we do have a part of our community that wants us to be responsible as we come out of this, that we are wearing masks and that we are not subjecting ourselves to unnecessary exposure to infection. Because as we open up, as you all know, we are a gateway to Death Valley. We have people that come through our community from across the world. And people who travel here on base come across the country and across the world. And I know that we're working to try and provide a way to reopen our community while still being safe. And if we do have an infection, how do we respond to that? And I think that the hospital has taken a significant lead in that area. I know that he is attempting to meet with Navy leadership here real soon, I think at the beginning of June, just so we can make sure as a community that we have done everything we can to ensure the base that we are being responsible, that the testing's available, and that there's a plan in place to handle an infection if it does come about. I know right now the hospital has the ability to conduct at least 100 tests a day, and I've been told by Mr. Suber that we're looking at being able to do the antibody test here after a while, so we can figure out who has it. I know that the city, the county also here recently approved $20 million for the cities to help us respond to COVID-19. The city's portion of that money is going to be approximately $992,000, and we're looking at using that money. Now, it's going to go to the Board of Supervisors on the 2nd. I will bring our resolution to council on the 3rd. Now, we'll be able to use that funding to be able to modify our city facilities to, one, protect our employees, and two, to protect the public that is within our buildings. We're looking at putting in sneeze shields, touchless water faucets. We're looking at upgrading our ability to telecommute. Perfect scenario, we had a hiccup on Wednesday that caused this meeting to go to today. We'll be able to use that funding to be able to upgrade our telecommuting, so as we work our way through this, we can have the ability to communicate with our public better. And if we ever have to shut down again, hopefully that never occurs, that we'll have the ability to go back into the ability to telecommute and be able to communicate with the folks. What it also does is allow us to put in for some of our direct reimbursement costs. So some of the costs we've had for our police officers that have been on standby have been assigned solely to COVID-19. We'll be able to seek reimbursement for those hours. So I am very thankful, and I think us as a city should be thankful of the county in taking a portion of that CARES Act money that they had and put it towards the cities, so we can utilize that to make our community safer, as well as to get some of our costs that we've spent back. I know that Rica's working on a CBDG grant for $76,000. We're looking that grant to focus on small businesses and helping them pay for and procure PPE equipment and make their businesses safer. So as we progress through this thing, they can open up and stay open and have a way of doing that. We're still working on that. Unfortunately, the information is not coming through as quickly as it is. And we also have, like I mentioned earlier, the county also approved $25 million for small business loans. Two of our local banks, Mission Bank and Alta One, are part of the program. The county should have early next week their website up and the information. I know that Ms. Anchetta will be reaching out with the chamber to notify all of our businesses so they can take advantage of that. What that will be is up to a $75,000 forgivable loan. So that would be significant for our small businesses. So
is it a loan or more like a grant then?
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I apologize. It's grant.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting me on that one. Yes.
And that one's not based off of keeping your employees employed?
Correct. It's a lot more broad. They did reach out to local businesses, and the county got a lot of input from local businesses, and they're hoping this is a grant that will be a little bit different than the PPP grant. Yeah. So with that, I know that everybody is frustrated, and I know that my belief is that I think we're going to hopefully be in stage 3 and into stage 4 as soon as we possibly can. I know that staff has been examining, going back to our programs and our budget. I know we've been working very diligent to try and figure out how this is going to affect our ability to provide services to the community. And the reality is the sooner we can open up, the better it is. But we also have to make sure that when we open up, that we be mindful of, what the perception is. I know what I don't want to do is have everybody open up. We make a declaration that it's okay to do anything. Well, then what sort of funding are we going to be subject to losing? Are we going to lose the free testing? So we have to be mindful that, what we do means something. And so that's all I have. I'll be available for any questions you may have.
I've got a question and several comments. First of all, allowing the other businesses to open up, what are the criteria?
For the other businesses, yeah, it came out with, the county has a guideline. A lot of it has to do with making sure that they wear a mask, that they have the ability to clean their hands, clean the countertops. It's more of a sanitary type thing.
See, I have a problem with that, because I go into Home Depot, and out of all the employees at Home Depot, one is wearing a mask. So they're allowed to be open all this time, and they don't have to wear a mask. But now we get a mom and pop that opens up, and they have to wear masks. To me, that's very discriminatory. I personally feel that all the small businesses in town probably do not as much volume per day, customer-wise, as Walmart does, or as Home Depot's done the last few weeks. And yet, they are the ones that are getting penalized. I'm glad to hear that the county's going to do something about loans for them. I have several observations. First of all, I agree with a lot of what was said in public comment. I disagree with a couple things. To say that because we didn't go against the state of California and defy them, that you should have voted for us, I think that's pretty narrow-minded. I don't think we want to bring the ire of the state down on us, or like you say, the weapons center. I think I speak for all of us. I think we all want to get this town opened up as soon as possible. I think we do need to take safety measures. And I had some experience this past several days. I spent five days in Arizona, which has opened up. All the restaurants in Arizona that are open are wearing, the employees are wearing masks. They're not requiring the customers to wear a mask. Costco is requiring customers. They won't. I think if you saw in the news yesterday, a guy went into Colorado, Costco, and refused to wear a mask, and they kicked him out. And he said, well, this is a free country. When you go into a business, you got to go into a business respecting their rules. And if they want to require masks to protect their liability, I have no problem with that. So Arizona is doing it very responsibly. The restaurants that we went into were not swamped, and every other table was closed. We have a little mobile home down at the Colorado River on the Arizona side, and we have a homeowners association which owns the beach. We drove by the beach because my daughter's thinking about going down there, and I got to tell you, those people at that beach were not practicing social distancing. And that whole beach, it's not a real big beach, but that beach was just jammed with people. And I think we've got to be careful not to, like a lot of news people are saying, we have a lot of respect for Americans. We know responsibility. We need to show responsibility when we do that, and that's pretty much what I got to say.
So I have a few things that I would like to say. So I know I am personally for us taking a stance of going against the state, but when I've said that and I've discussed with Lloyd, I'm not saying that we do it all willy-nilly and we just throw the floodgates open. This would be basically, we tell people if they want to open at your own risk. We encourage you to follow the social distancing guidelines, and if you have state licenses, you have to make that choice for yourself. We're not going to tell you to open your business and jeopardize your state license. We just put it back into their hands. Kern County Sheriff has publicly, repeatedly come out and said he's not enforcing these. So I think it's just, we can come out and say the same, that we're not enforcing it, but we're also not telling you to go out and just get in a group of 100 and hug each other. Like, we're telling you to still proceed responsibly. I think as in any other case that we've seen with the base, if the base has an issue with it, they issue statements to their employees, as they've reminded us. For instance, any other time they've had issues with businesses, they can tell them to not go to those businesses. So I think the Navy will take care of themselves. I think President Trump has also publicly come out, though, and said, open. And now he's even said, churches, open, we have your backs. So when the president is telling these governors to lay off and to let us open, I think that also shows that the federal government is ready for it. I also think the testing and care is in place, which is why we have been able to proceed. I don't think those are in jeopardy, because if they're really concerned about health, they're not going to take away the funding for making sure that the tests, unless it's not actually about the health of the communities. Many other places have started taking stands, and, you know, maybe he has threatened something, but there hasn't been follow through. And this money, the emergency funds, it doesn't just fall out of the sky. It's being taken from other programs. We've seen in their budget proposals, they're stealing money from the gas tax. They're slashing funding to schools. And at the same time, this is happening because businesses are closed and not allowed to take in income to pay the taxes to fund the governments. So to me, I think it is time for us to take a stand. And the reason is because he keeps dangling these little carrots out where we don't get to enter into a full phase. We get these incremental phases, and it's released at the last minute what the guidelines are. And I think people are fed up with it. We've flattened the curve, and it's time for us to take a stand.
Okay, other council comments?
I just have a quick, I guess it'd be more addressing you, Ron, and maybe you, Jed. What is the legality of taking a stand? And that's a good segue into what is us in the local government doing to prohibit businesses?
We're doing nothing to prohibit businesses. The businesses that have closed beginning with the federal government shutting down, the states shutting down, and then the county putting out a public health order. Now, the county has since lifted the public health order because it was much more restrictive than where we're at currently with the state. And that was them lifting the order to be able to allow the state to then relax their orders. If, one, we cannot tell the chief to not enforce the state health order because it's a misdemeanor for him to do so, for him to intentionally not enforce it. I think the biggest issue we have is if we take a public stand, it's one more about, are we putting ourselves in jeopardy of saying there's no longer an emergency? Is there I know Lloyd and I discussed this, and Lloyd has a view of it. If we open up as a community, tell everybody open up, and we're a sanctuary community, does that bring the threat of frivolous litigation against us? I think it does. I think one of the things that I've been following with the government is they want Congress to pass a law that will allow businesses to have some sort of immunity from prosecution as they open up. And I think one could state that could follow on us if we tell our community to open up. We are the regulatory agency within our community. And to say just open up can give people the impression that they can legally open up when they really can't, because it's not our law. That we have not set a municipal code. We have not stopped anybody. We've just all been subject to the county, state, and federal rules. So the city has done nothing other than try to adapt and survive this. And don't get me wrong, I agree with you. I think we should be open a lot more, but as your city manager, it is my job to follow the rules that are laid out by the county, state, and federal government.
And so can we hear I haven't heard from Lloyd. I mean, if we know that on a federal level they're talking about protecting local governments and other businesses from frivolous lawsuit, where are we at on that?
They haven't passed
I understand. I know it hasn't been passed, but I mean, does it look like it's going to be passed? Does the federal government look like they're going to help us out? I'm asking very general questions, right? There's a big difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And if in the spirit of the law people are, moving forward and understanding that this isn't going to be an issue and we're being scared of something we shouldn't be scared of, that's a different story.
Well, the problem is if you put it out too soon and you create damage, then it doesn't, eventually we're all going to be out of this. So I think that's a thought, but.
Sure. Well, I know you get briefings pretty constantly, Ron, from the state and other city managers. How quick do you think we're getting to phase 3? I know that's speculation. And then what does stage 3 mean?
Well, stage 3 means that hair salons can open up. I believe youth sports can open up. I do believe bars.
We also don't know if he's going to break phase 3 up into segments like he did with phase 2.
I do know that there's a risk for any sort of state or federal assistance by coming outside of the rules. We were warned on a call that if you don't have an emergency anymore and you're not following the rules, you may not get any funding at all. And the issue then is that what happens if we open up and 60 days from now we have a significant infection come through our community? I think things are going to eventually open up. I think they need to open up as quickly as possible. I know that we've been working as a city manager group with the public health, and public health has been working with the state, and it has had some benefits to it. So.
We asked Lloyd a question. Lloyd, can you answer that?
Sure, yeah. Please answer that question, Lloyd, and then I have a follow-on question. Sorry to keep pinning you against the wall here.
Yeah, no, you bet. This is Lloyd Pilchin. So I think what I heard was, have I heard anything about this proposed legislation about protecting against liability or lawsuits against government? So I have not heard anything about this. I don't have any new information on that. And I guess I would mirror what Ron said, that I would advise not getting out ahead of it in anticipation of such protection, because we don't know what form that protection will take or if it will come through at all. And regardless of whether a lawsuit by anyone against the city, regardless of whether it would be successful or not, it still presents a cost to the city. So, it's hard to advise on something like that when we don't see any lawsuit like that in front of us. But, my advice is to not assume that there's going to be protection against liability until we see it.
Okay, Kyle, you still had more questions?
Yeah, he answered the rest of my question. It was really just going to be, I know that Lloyd also has purview, or at least knowledge of how other cities operate and their own, the kind of legal pressure they're under. And I'm wondering how.
Well, even if the federal government passes a measure to keep from frivolous lawsuits, that doesn't mean if you go against the criteria that that's going to cover you.
Sure.
We could be in violation. Problem you've got is you got a Republican Senate and a Democratic House, and the Democrats aren't really in favor of this lawsuit protection.
Sure. A lot of the reason I'm asking all these questions is because they're questions asked to me, even if I think the public needs to fully understand that we are in no way going out and shutting down business. We're trying to be proactive. We're trying to help the public out as much as we can. I don't really know what else we can do. And if there's an answer out there, I'd love to hear it from people who are more experienced than I am. You guys have been in government longer than I have. Ron, you've been in the city for a long time, leading. Jed, if there's an answer, I'd love to hear it and I'd love to act on it. I just don't know what that answer is.
I think as a council, you guys have done a wonderful job in keeping the community informed when we first locked down. And I think that we're doing a good job at least keeping our businesses informed of where we're at in the stages and what they can do to reopen, and as soon as they can reopen. So, we're doing everything we possibly can within our power and authority. So like I said, anytime there's an opportunity to help the small businesses, we've been there trying to educate them, trying to get them access to the information. And I think that's the best we can do at this point in time.
Can we also make sure we go ahead and provide the standards? Because the restaurants got provided the standards after they got that go-ahead. Maybe if we could provide the standards of reopening for the salons and other establishments ahead of time, so that right now they could be preparing, so that when...
I don't really know this yet.
Yeah, I don't have, but I can promise you the minute we get them, we'll disperse them. I mean, we've been literally, every time we get a little bit of information, we can get out to our businesses. We're doing the best we can to get it out as early as possible. I mean, we've spent a significant amount of time on that because it's important. I mean, I'd love to be able to tell, youth football they can open up, but we can't. But I can tell you that we're working behind the scenes to debate from our position why they should. And I think that, I think sooner or later the cities and throughout the state, they're going to dictate what's going to happen.
But at what point? So that's what everybody keeps saying. Sooner or later, the cities are going to dictate, but it has to start somewhere. And by just continuing to placate him and follow his, his little carrots that he's dangling out. I mean, at what point are we going to say, is it 12 months from now we're going to be like, this is too long, we're opening youth sports? So that's part of it as well. I mean, we've had 5 cases. They're recovered. They were traveling from out of the area. It's just, it's become a political thing, not necessarily a health thing anymore. And that's exactly what we're seeing, even at the federal level. The Democrats are holding various things hostage, and so I think we have to take a stand for our community.
I will say that the president announced today, he told the governors to allow the churches to open, or he would do it. That's a political decision, and hopefully that will be reviewed by the governors or by the president. And if he has the authority to do it and he can do it, then the churches can open.
Before we start other questions, I know Scott had some questions, and let's try to get all of us in, and then let's go back around again, okay?
Okay.
All right.
We've got someone that's been hanging on the line a long time.
Go ahead and take that call, and then I'll...
All right. Caller, please state your name and your comment and question.
Go ahead and take that call.
Caller, go ahead, state your name and ask your comment or questions, please.
Yeah, this is Chuck Ruland again. I fully agree with Lindsay, and there's a few things to touch on. One, like what Ron just said about the churches. There's no clear direction. So the president comes out and says all the churches are open. Do we wait for the state, and then does that come down to the county, and then does that come down to the city? How do we get our direction? Nobody knows what's going on.
I can
Let's
answer.
start with churches, for example.
I can answer that really quick. When the president decided to shut down the country, he left it to the authority of the states to determine how they shut down and how they reopen. So the governor delegated that to the states, or excuse me, the president delegated that to the states.
Okay, and then today he said he's not delegating opening the churches to the states. He publicly said they have to open their churches or we will come open. So when we get direction like that, how do we, if we have a church that we want to open and say church was tomorrow, would we be legally okay to open or no? And if not, what clear direction should we be waiting for to open our churches?
We should be waiting for the direction from Governor Newsom.
Okay. So that's, and I don't believe that to be true. That's not what I think is actually the case. So that's okay. So we're talking about, speculation on the basis position. I would go with the fact that Trump said open the country up. I would side with the fact that the base is probably going to take Trump's position of opening the country. I'm not sure that's something that we need to worry about. You got the county of Ventura that's opened up completely. You have it's so like you just said, Ron, at some point we need to take a stand. At some point the cities are going to go ahead and make their final decisions. At what point do we, like Lindsay said, do we make that decision? Because right now, although I feel like the council has been giving up their time, and I've had a few council members also return my text, I don't feel like we're getting any kind of direction from them. I feel like they've made themselves available, and the reason why is not because that they don't want to. I don't think that they're getting it. I was going to get a text back on a call that I had 2 weeks ago, and there was going to be some information coming out the next day. Well, that never came forth, and it still hasn't. So again, dangling the carrot is exactly what I think that we're seeing. I think Mike made a bunch of great points on just not making any type of sense almost on every level of this closure. With the Met, for example, you're worried about the base's position on masks, but nobody in the council meeting today has masks on. Okay, why are restaurant waitresses having masks on when you guys aren't having masks on? I mean, look at it from everybody.
I didn't hear that, Chuck. What did you say? Why are restaurants what?
Why are we worried about all these other people, whatever they're doing, what the federal government's position is on say like masks or what they may or may not require? Everybody's recommending that you wear masks. Nobody in there today has masks on. I mean, those are the type of things.
Don't have it on, but have it here.
That's okay. You don't have it on.
Well,
I mean,
we're all 6
like
feet
that,
apart.
actually.
And I'll tell you, Chuck, when I went to the restaurants in Arizona, all the restaurant employees had masks on. The customers were not required to wear a mask. Kind of hard to eat dinner when you're wearing a mask.
Right, exactly. I'm 100% agreement with you. It makes no sense. It just doesn't make any sense at all. So I think we need to start making some decisions that make sense for our community. We've had 6 cases that I know of. There hasn't been an update in the last couple of weeks. Last I heard, all 6 of those cases were in whatever remission, or they're not in quarantine no more. So do we have any actual cases right now? I don't have the answer to that. I don't know if you guys do, but I know this: it's going to destroy. We're not going to see the impact from this until we actually open up. I mean, I don't know if you guys think that we're just going to open up and it's going to be hallelujah. It's not. One of the reasons why Triple T's closed, they have probably close to $50,000 worth of inventory that's basically trash at some point. Beer expires, for example. They can't sell it directly to people. When they close down, all that inventory, all that beer that expires, they can't resell it, even if it's still good. It's not like magically Newsom's going to say, okay, you're open, and then you guys say, okay, we're open, and then all these businesses open. We're going to find out the real damage once we open. And, I can go on all day long, but if any of it made any kind of sense at all as far as how we're implementing it or how it's coming to us or the way that we're understanding it, I wouldn't agree with it, but it's such a train wreck. Like, for example, the whole church thing. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what to expect. I'm thinking that we should be able to get some sort of direction from somebody, since we've only had 6 cases, where they're like, hey, if you maintain 6 cases or 7 cases and you've had no deaths and nobody's even stayed in the hospital, that in 2 weeks will allow you to have haircuts open. I mean, they're not even giving us some sort of, they're giving us this whatever it is where you don't have 14 cases in a couple of days, but that's not working for us. So how long do we follow that as a city? But that's all I got to say. I mean, there's no clear direction. I will say I appreciate the council's time, because I feel like they've made themselves available for these after-hours meetings, and whether they went perfectly smooth or not is beside the point. It was your guys' time, and you didn't need to do that. I think you guys have been totally transparent as far as answering the questions that you can, and I know people have made their time available to me, but the direction that's actually finally coming and getting to the people that need it is a disaster, I mean, to say the least, for these businesses that are, and we're talking about, the business that we're talking about have, almost the least amount of contact. You think about a smoke shop, for example. They might have 20 people in their store all day long. I mean, and, I know, again, I appreciate the fact that we aren't shutting them down, but at a bare minimum, let's just say, hey, we're not going to shut these businesses down. This is a state law, state whatever it is. Our city is not going to shut businesses down. Proceed at your own risk. We're not telling you to open, but we're also not going to shut you down. And that's it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Chuck. We'll try to get to some of those answers that you're seeking, but let us finish here and we'll go on. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Yeah, bye.
All right, Scott.
Okay. So first, I would like to say I definitely feel the frustrations that the callers have come out and presented, and everyone else on this board or in the council. I have a daughter that's been shut out of work over this, and she hasn't received any supplemental fund, monies from the government yet. So on a personal basis, yeah, I see it. If this is about declaring or looking at us becoming a sanctuary city, I don't see that as a good idea, and I want to talk about that in a whole variety of issues. Some have been touched on by the city manager already. This is a public health issue, a safety issue, and it involves not just us, it involves the state, the country, and the world in general. But it also, we're a country in a state of laws, and we have rules and guidelines and laws to follow. I think it's important that we don't let emotion get ahead of us in making sound judgment. To just open up and say that we're going to open up, and there's more to it than that. These health cosmetology folks, the healthcare department, or the public, or not public health, but just healthcare in general. It even gets into accounting. We're all held to a licensing agency that governs whether or not we can practice and do what we need to do. So we have to report to these people. So we could sit back as a council and say, we're going to open up. But what does that mean? These people open up, well, now they have their state boards come back at them and say, well, we're going to take your license away, or we're going to shut your office down. I don't think that's a good thing for them. I don't want to jeopardize them further than what they've been jeopardized. So we have to look at the base, as Mr. Strand stated, that we have the China Lake Naval Weapons Station that we need to be looking at, and how that the guidelines that they're going through, and how do we work cohesively in parallel with them. We need to look at the county and the state that we follow their laws and guidance from, which is going to lead me into Wednesday. I said on the county reopening committee meeting, and I can tell you the county is working extremely hard to be able to say yes to opening up jobs, to making these things work. That letter that went out on Monday that was put together by the county health department and was signed on, signatories by all the various hospitals, and our hospital included, and Bakersfield, and these other major healthcare agencies or healthcare facilities in Kern County. It was brilliant. There was no political aspect to it. They put this together, and they were asking for a variance to be able to change what the governor had put down as a criterion, to say, hey, 1 in 10,000 is not going to work, because if we start testing, those numbers are going to come up, and we don't have those numbers. So we're ready. We have the capabilities of taking care of our patients, and we don't have the hospitalization. So can you look at this from our perspective? And you know what? It worked. The governor looked at it, said yes, granted the variance. And look, today, I can say right here, we have, I got a lot to say, and so my mind is swimming. But here's the reopening for Kern County that has all come about from those actions that the county has been working at to help us with. So we're looking at businesses that can reopen now: retail stores, manufacturers and logistics, childcare for non-essential workers, select services like car washes and pet grooming, shopping malls, dine-in restaurants, outdoor museums and public spaces. That all took place in a very short time. From Monday, Wednesday, it was accepted. Now this weekend, we're looking at positive changes. For us to go in and throw a wrench in this, in this wheel of happening here, I think would be wrong. I think we're at a point where we need to work with it, be patient, make logical, good, solid decisions that will benefit everybody. It's not fun. We have to look at it from a public health perspective. We don't want to do anything that would jeopardize anyone. That would be the last thing we'd want to do, is make a decision that somewhere down the road somebody's lives or cost us in the highest level of risk. So I want to see us continue to work as a council to make decisions that benefit us all as a community, benefit all these businesses, and try to stay on task here and follow this thing through. So I think I've covered most of what I wanted to say today, but I think it would behoove us to not go in and undermine the progress that we have going at this stage. things are starting to open up. It happened quick this week. We may see a huge increase in that over the next week or two. So that's my point of view for right now. Thank you.
Well, I hate to pile it on you, Doc, but is your committee then working to get to stage 3 and past it there at the county? This reopening committee, are they working? So there's been a lot of effort on the county's part to get to speed through stage 2, stages and phases. Is there now an effort on the county's part to get past and into stage 3?
I think that's what we're seeing here. All of this is that, I think, working towards moving through, stage 2, moving into stage 3. So,
because I think what's frustrating people is we don't even have a speculation on when we're going to hit stage 3.
Well, the last update, he said it's months away, was what the governor had said for stage 3. But I also think one thing is you talk about putting people's health at risk, but there's been a lot of talk about people's mental health is at risk, and also abuse has increased because of people being home. So there's also health aspects of not opening up that we need to take into consideration. But I also think we as a city why don't we write a letter? Because Bakersfield's large, like Kern County is larger than some states. So because they have more issues over on the other side of the mountain, we're being held differently. If we can appeal to the governor ourselves and say, listen, here's Ridgecrest's situation, don't lump us all together with the entire county, let us have an exception. That's why we have layers of government, right? Because we have a bird's eye view of our area, and so it shouldn't be all the way up at the state that he's telling us down here in our little area. And that's the whole problem, is his regulations that he set were okay for LA County, but they didn't work for Kern County. Well, even what he's done so far, it may work for Kern County for Bakersfield area, but it's not working. It doesn't need to apply to Ridgecrest.
Right. What the variance does allow the county to do is that, let's say the governor says we could go to upper stage of phase 2 if you have a variance. Well, then it's up to the county to determine what parts of that community within their jurisdiction gets to open up to that point. Right now, the county chose to open the entire county to upper phase 2, which I agree with. Now, let's say the governor comes out and says, well, now individual counties that meet a certain criteria can determine what phasing of whether or not they could go to upper phase 3 or stay at upper phase 2. Then the county could say, well, Ridgecrest can go to upper phase 3, but the rest of the county, because there's infections in Arvin, stay at upper phase 2. So that latitude's already been agreed to.
Let me
Exactly. But what I was saying is, why don't we take it to the next level? He's saying because the county put together this effort and wrote a letter that they were able to get an exception. Why don't, as a community, then we get our hospital and we write a letter as our community saying, great, you've done this, but we need you to take it a step further.
Do we have the ability to do all the things that the county does as far as like county health department and to be able to manage that? That's a big thing to try to take on as a city. We don't have that. That's what the county health department is all about.
But we could get the county
So
health
you're saying
department to sign off and say, I believe we could ask the county health department if he thinks Ridgecrest is more ready than Bakersfield.
If you have things to submit that you would like to say present to the county to work with on, that would be a positive thing for the more rural, let's just say less risk areas of the county. I would say take it to the county. Give it to me. I'll take it to them too, because I'm sure that they're looking at those things to address that. We're a low risk county, but within the county we have lower risk peripheral areas of the county. So I think that's what you're saying, is that with that, can we, get more, positive actions in these peripheral areas? But I would say, sure, bring it to them. But I think to go past the county into the state and to override the system as it sits, we don't have a whole lot more to rely on other than our county.
Let me say a couple of things here, if I may.
You're the mayor. You're in charge of the meeting.
Well, I'm trying to let everybody speak so we can all go back through and address each other. I spent about a couple hours on the phone with Mick Gleason on Sunday going, I don't understand how regional variance matters if we don't enforce it or talk about it, the potential for it. I said, you have already established a precedent when you had the Kern Economic Development Corporation, you recognized, and Mick isn't disagreeing with me, so let me give him the benefit of this in my argument, that you recognize that the needs of the West Kern are clearly different in their Economic Development Corporation, and that they cannot clearly and fully address what the needs are in East Kern. And so you established a county-funded East Kern Economic Development Corporation and a county-funded Kern Economic Development Corporation. You also had an air pollution control district that determined what all of Kern County was going to do. And understanding that the needs of East Kern were clearly different than the needs of West Kern, and you funded and established an East Kern Air Pollution Control District. Each decides what they need, come back, make their decisions, and tell you what they've done. They don't need your permission to do so. I think that we have established the regional variance to say we have met and exceeded all of the governor's standards. I want us to look at that and say, we are East Kern. I don't want you to fight against your district, District 1 in West Kern. I want you to work for our district, which is what he is agreeing to do and has done, and got this through the regional variance. Now we're extending the regional variance even further by saying, okay, West Kern can't even come close to what the issues are in East Kern, and also understand the acceptance and the work that East Kern has done, and in particular Jim Suver in the hospital, to meet all the governor's standards and exceed every one of them. And so we are going to see very shortly, as Scott saw at that meeting on Wednesday, regional variances being addressed. Now, are we going to go hit somebody over the head and say, ha, 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 we're better than you are? No, we're going to work with them. We're not going to say, I saw the restaurant that opened in Norco and the San Bernardino County Sheriff saying, we're not going to enforce those rules. I saw Donnie Youngblood say the same thing. They've got certainly much more bigger dollars behind them to make those statements. They can't decide what you're going to enforce and what you're not going to enforce. But we have the county saying, you are different. We recognize that. We see that in 2 precedents, and we probably can say it in 3. I would like to give the county the opportunity to work on this, give them a couple of weeks, and say, because there was an article in the Bakersfield Californian just saying stage 3 is probably only a few weeks away. Let's let that happen without telling our people, open up, and if you make the choice and you're put out of business, like Moo Creamery was in Bakersfield. They opened up, this would be a week ago now, on Thursday they said, Governor, we don't care. We're going to open up. The next day, the government came down and shut them down. So they opened back up on Saturday and said, we don't care. We want to open up. The governor came back down and said, unless you enforce this, we are pulling your license forever. Do you know how much a liquor license costs? Do you know how much, what schooling you have to go through to become a barber, to become a beauty salon operator, to have your licenses? I know you know what the license is to be in a nail salon. I don't want to tell our people, we've given you permission to do this. It is not fair to all the people to bear that burden, any more than it's fair for them to bear that burden. I don't want to give somebody permission to do. I want to say, we're here to support you. We'll do anything you need. And this is why we're working with our governor. This is why we're working with the county. And they're recognizing the difference. And if we can get into stage 3 in a very couple of weeks, I want to say God bless everybody who understood our businesses and said, I believe I'm a small business. You're a small business. You're a small business. I know I've lost 30% of my business because of this. I can't keep it up. Either can those people who not only lost 30%, lost 100%. I want to be there, I want to support them, and I want to demand that you listen to us because we know us better than you do. There is nobody knows this city any better than we do. And there's nobody who cares more for it than we do. And if we say, guys, go do what you want because we don't care what happens to you if your license gets pulled because we've given you permission to do it, wrong answer. I don't want to give somebody a permission to say, go 75 miles an hour down China Lake Boulevard because we've given you permission. I know I'm being facetious when I say that, but that's what we said. We've given them permission. I want them to say, give us a couple more weeks. Give us a couple more weeks because the governor is listening. The county has bent over backwards and they understand the precedents. And Mick presented those when you were there Wednesday. And the health department is saying, we want to do it. I am not in favor of a sanctuary city. The reason I'm not in favor of this, or even trying to see how it impacts us, because let's assume the governor says, and he can, I don't know that he will, but I know he can, come to us and say, folks, you have decided to not do what I told you to do. I'm not going to argue whether it's constitutional or not. I suspect it probably isn't. But that isn't our choice to make. That's the court's choice to make. And so let's assume in a couple of months when all these people start coming in, are we going to get thermometers at every hotel in town to see if anybody who may be coming in with a fever? Are we going to do all that? Because what we've said then, by allowing these things to happen, there's going to be an increase. It's impossible to believe that the 2,000 people we may get in the next 6 months to a year, given the projected surge in the fall, are not going to impact our numbers. So we have people, 1 die, 50 die. All of them are awful. I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see any of our businesses die either. But we are setting ourselves up to be sued by saying we're not going to follow the law. We are not going to. And do you think our insurance company is going to say, guys, I know you were doing the right thing. I know you were trying to do what you thought best. But you know what? You said, to heck with it. We're going to do what we want and not what is safe for our financial situation here. Does that mean I want to hurt our businesses? No. I'm tired of being hurt. I'm tired of being a one-man band at my office until last week. I'm tired of it. I know you all are tired of it. I want to see our businesses open up, but I want to see them open up as quickly and as responsibly as they can, and not us saying, okay, guys, violate the law, it's your choice, and if your license gets pulled, tough luck. Not my way, not the way the city should be operating. Okay.
Can I make a suggestion? Why don't we have, am I on? Yeah. Why don't we have Ron and Peggy as the mayor contact the base and talk to the base about what their plans are and how soon they plan on starting to let things happen?
Mr. Suber has arranged a meeting next Friday at 5:30 with base leadership. That was the soonest we could get it. We have been, Mr. Suber has been reaching out at my request to make that meeting so then we can meet with base command to make sure that we are meeting whatever goals that they need in the way of testing and whatever they're going to require, because sooner or later they're going to have to allow folks to travel here from Huntsville, Alabama, and Washington, D.C., and what's it going to be, what's it going to take, or what does the base need to see from our community to open up their business,
And I think we need to know that from the base. I think that would answer a lot of Kyle's concerns.
Well, because think about it, if the base stays shut down, a lot of these small businesses are still going to suffer.
Still going to suffer, that's right.
Because we don't have the economy, we don't have the economy coming in, we don't have the hotels being filled up, and that's a significant revenue source for our community. So
they keep coming out with surveys saying that 80% of the American people still want to stay shut down. I have a hard time believing that figure, number one, and I'm sure it's not true in this community. But even when business open, they don't know whether they're going to get back to business or not. Scott, were you closed down or were you open?
We were open, but
It
probably
impacted.
down to 20-30% of normal
Yeah.
for weeks.
You know, I lost a significant amount of my income because my major income comes from a commercial building that has a gymnastic group in there. I don't know what stage they get to open, but she can't afford to pay her rent when she has no income coming in. So more than anybody, I want to see this place totally open, but I will not defy the governor's orders.
One of the things
And I
that-
don't like the governor, by the way. I think this whole thing nationally has been handled way too strict, but I'm not going to defy
And that's why I was trying to get the point across with the county is that I follow your same sentiments, Mike. I mean, we've seen the governor in action when he came down for the earthquakes, and we met and talked with him, but did we see, a lot of outcome out of that? Probably not as much as I'd like to have seen. So I don't agree with his handling of it, but our county, I think, is our best, bet at getting things done in a favorable way for the small businesses, for the people.
I'll tell you how I feel about the governor coming down the earthquakes. I have a friend that lost his mobile home. The governor came out to his mobile home, did a Photoshop there, and he never heard another word.
Yeah.
So,
So that's why I would say, the county, I think, is and they are doing things. It's not talk. They are actually working hard to be able to say yes to opening jobs. And so I think that's important that we maintain that.
I would like to see us, though, as city, send a letter to the county and partner with the county to send a letter to the governor for our city. Because I think what our citizens feel is that we're just being led around and they haven't seen us take a direct stand. So at a minimum, I feel like we should send a letter saying, here's what our hospital says. We understand that you're giving county permission, but we want to see that you lessen it up even more and give the county more authority to say that we can do more than the other half of the
And
county.
our hospital was on that letter to the governor.
Here's the problem is that the governor's not going to allow anybody above stage 2 right now. When they open it up to stage 3, that will be the case. But I will say that has already been done. That was one of the arguments that the county had in getting the variance was drawing the difference between East Kern and West Kern. And I know that our Senator Shannon Grove was having conversations with the governor regarding Ridgecrest and Cal City and Tehachapi. Those conversations have been had and they're still ongoing to this date. I know for a fact.
Other cities.
But it's great that those conversations are happening. But let's go ahead and send a letter that we can stack onto that pile too from ourselves. But I also know, I'm pretty confident that there are people for the base traveling and coming here already. Too.
Well, they're working on the magazines, yes.
True.
But I think
not very
also,
many.
I think also on some of the projects on base.
True, but they are talking about certain segments of that base. They're going to be teleworking at home for 12 months.
Yeah. Exactly. But what I'm saying is to say that they're not allowing people to travel here from other states isn't a factual statement because there are people here traveling from other states doing work.
That is correct, but if you drive by our hotels, the occupancy is extremely low.
It is.
And you're right, we can't, our hotels cannot survive on our current occupancy rate.
Yes.
They will die. And so even though the base has a little bit of travel going on, it's still not what it should be and what it has been in the past and what it probably will be in the future.
But also maybe what our base needs is for us to be more proactive and take a stand and say, hey, we're different over here. We need to have our standards lightened up because we're not Bakersfield.
But that is exactly what we're saying. That is exactly what we're doing.
That's something that I've been doing almost every day since this thing began.
And I'm not saying that we're not doing it. I'm saying as a city, we haven't officially all signed a letter and sent it saying that.
I think it's important that we understand, too, that we have to back it up with factual evidence of being able to back what it is that we want. And that's kind of difficult in this realm.
Well, maybe that meeting that Jim Suber and you are going to have with the base, maybe we can come up with some criteria. I don't have a problem sending a letter to the county with a copy to the governor. I just don't want to defy anybody.
Well, I will tell you that
we come up with some criteria in that meeting to put in a letter.
I will tell you that letter will say is that the city of Ridgecrest wants to open to stage 3 above everybody else, and the governor's going to say you're not opening past stage 2.
Well,
We don't know that if we don't
How
try.
many counties up in Northern California have already opened up?
Assumption.
To stage 2? Several.
Well, they've opened up.
To stage 3? No, nobody's past stage 2.
No, I thought some of them up in the northern
Several
northern
northern
counties
have opened up.
because they had literally no cases and they're fully open.
Modoc and Butte and a couple of the small counties
Yeah.
apparently tried to open up, but
No, he granted them permission after they said they were going to. Then he said that they could. They did. Then he gave them permission to.
He also pulled their emergency funding, though, didn't he?
I don't think anybody's past
They
stage
didn't
2.
declare
Past it. I don't think anybody's into 3, but if anybody knows something, say it.
If you got a county that's in stage 3, let me know. We can use that as an example.
Yeah. I agree with the letter. I don't think it hurts anything. I think it's more impactful. And I know the city managers, all of them have sent letters. And so, but I think if it comes from the council, it's even more impactful. So
we could get that forwarded.
I would agree. And let's
to Mick.
talk about that regional variance and supporting our county in that.
Yeah, like I said, I just need to know what that needs to say because everything you're wanting is already happening.
It's already, yeah,
Right.
it is. And that's why I say it.
It's already happening. I mean, the only difference is that what I'm hearing from Ms. Stevens is that she wants us to open past where the governor's at, and that's not going to occur. He's taken a pretty strong stance on that. And I agree with you. I'd love to be at stage 3 and stage 4, but this is where we're at. But I'll tell you that I have been getting text messages from people complaining about businesses opening up without wearing masks, and so you have to understand I'm getting, and myself and the chief are getting the other end of this thing also, that people aren't following the rules, that people aren't being safe, and so, whereas we're looking to reopen, but I also know there's a strong segment of our community that thinks we're opening up too fast, and I think that would be evident. I mean, when we start opening up the restaurants, are they going to go back to 100% capacity? Well, if they don't go back to 100% capacity, it's because there's people that are still fearful. So how we open can get those people back out of their homes.
They can't go to 100%. If they leave every other booth closed, they can't go back to 100%.
Right.
Well, some of them can't even afford to operate at 50%.
Right.
And I understand that too. As a small business owner, it is a very difficult, and let me just share a story I had. I've been working with a couple of boards I sit on or looking at fundraising and how are they going to keep their operations going that support an entity here in town or support the community as a whole. And I said, you better not plan on very much money coming from small businesses at all to support yours, because most of them will not and do not have it. Maybe next year. And some of the big ones don't. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go around and talk to some of these big businesses who are still operating and say, would you be willing to donate too? And all of them have given me, no, 2 have given me a form I can fill out to send back to corporate asking, would you be willing to fund this particular organization, this particular event? Because they're being corporate, they're not going to give out, here's $1,000 for you. They've got to get the okay. And I remember when we did this with Walmart, one of the boards I sit on years ago, it took us about 6 months to get the okay. I mean, they did donate it, but it took us forever because everybody is asking them all now to do that. So, anyhow.
So we've talked a lot about the things that we cannot do. But can we talk about the things that we can do? And I guess this is more pointed at Ron, like usual, or maybe Madam Mayor. Is there any way we can assist the youth programs? If we believe that they're at risk of not carrying on, right? I've heard that even, I think it was last year, the football said they were in jeopardy. Baseball, I know, didn't get to go at all. And I know that they heavily rely on sponsors. I'm not just saying that because of the John Harper. I just know that I've talked to him ad nauseum about how he has to go out and spend a lot of time. And since all those businesses are likely not going to be supporting, I'm sure they're going to try. We have a very generous community, but that's a point. Is there anything we can do as a city to help, let's just say, youth programs?
Well, I think what will help the youth programs is their ability to open. Because if you look at our community, other than our small businesses, probably 90% of our communities receive their full paycheck. When you talk about the base, the hospital, Searles Valley, the school district, utilities. So there's not a, we're unique in the sense is that our community does not have a high unemployment rate as a result of this. Doesn't mean we don't have people in town, the businesses in town that aren't suffering. Some are doing quite well, and some are doing quite horribly because they've been shut down. But when you talk about the ability for people to put their kids through the program, I don't think there's that huge of an impact on that. I don't think there's a whole lot of people that can't afford. In fact, there's some people out there that are receiving more money on unemployment than they were prior to when they were working full time. So I don't think it's going to be the program itself being funded in that regard. I think it's just a matter of us being able to, or the governor, to be allow our children to have recreation programs. And I think that goes back to our original topic at the very beginning.
If you want to see a sad thing in the community, drive past Salvation Army every morning and see the number of cars lined up to get free food.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people in this town are hurting.
Yep.
And I feel for them.
And most of them are employed by, or have been employed by small businesses.
Small businesses, that's right.
Yeah.
But you're right. You know, my daughter's a substitute school teacher back in Ohio. She's making more money right now because that $600 a week federal unemployment, in addition to her regular employment, than she makes teaching school. And that's all over the country. And how are you going to get those people to go back to work? Of course, that program ends the end of July, although that $3 trillion thing wants to extend it to January.
But I think if we're going to play within the confines of the rules that we're given, the best thing we can do is make sure that our businesses open up responsibly, our community does the best they can to keep the distancing, and allow us to be in a position where we can reopen sooner than later.
Thanks, Ron. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot or anything, and I know we're going to spend some time going over the budget here in a few weeks and pouring through that. All we've heard is a lot of negativity. If there's some positivity out there, something we can do for the community instead of feeling like we're just constantly roadblocked by the state and the county.
I would say your city staff is extremely frustrated because every day I'm being asked by our Parks and Rec director, can we open? What's your direction? What's our status? And I know how important it is for our children to be doing something. I think it's just horrible that parents are having to be, teachers at home. Everything is by Zoom or whatever. And I understand, how people are feeling, but I also understand is that we're working our way through this thing. This isn't something none of us asked for.
I know we have some calls. Can we just get the calls in and then we'll come back to us? Okay, caller, please identify yourself and state your comment or questions, please.
Tell me that again.
Caller, please identify yourself and state your comment or questions, please.
Hi, yeah, this is Dave Matthews again. Wow, what a discussion. What I was really originally going to call in about, I almost forgot, but Lindsay, I agree with a lot of what you said. And in fact, if it gets published, there's going to be an open letter to the governor in the papers this weekend, I hope, that I have already sent via his webpage to him. But I haven't heard anything, and I don't even know if he's seen it. But Ron mentioned some numbers about on the virus, and as of this morning, as far as I'm concerned in this whole thing, Kern County should have never been shut down. And statistically, the proof is in the pudding, because right now, this morning, I think there was 28, I think it was, deaths in Kern County.
That's gone up.
And when we look at the number of tests or number of confirmed cases, it's somewhere around 800, 1,800 or something. Well, if you do the math, those deaths only represent a little over 1% of the confirmed cases.
Now, if you compare that to the population of the whole county, it's minuscule. Way down, 5 zeros or something, percent of the population. So, and it's been that way. It's been running at those levels all along. So, look at that letter. I think we need to, what a lot of us have been saying for a long time, is push back and push back as much as we can. Now, I kept hearing Ron say something about if the governor gives us permission. Well, you know, what the governor has done, I don't think is constitutional. And yes, he gets on these licensing boards, and they come in and act as the Gestapo to take away the people's licenses and put him out of business. Unfortunately, some of the people that I usually frequent are already out of business. And so if the longer we wait, the more people are not going to be able to come back. And that's the way it is. So push back as much as we can, and let's get on with it. It's all been a big scare tactic, which is unjustified to start with. And I've got the numbers in other incidents to back that up, too. Probably can't just access them right off the top of my head, but we can get to them. So that's all I have, I guess. That's enough for now. You guys have been spending a lot of time on this, and I still think you got some other stuff to do.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Okay, I assume there's no other callers wishing to
There's another
speak, is
caller.
there?
Yes,
There's
there is.
one? Okay. Caller, caller, please identify yourself and state your concern or questions, please.
Okay, my name is Kathy Brown, and I'm just going to I'm going to give the public the other side of what the other public is thinking, like Ron had alluded to. First of all, I want to thank you, Ms. Mayor, for doing such a great job. I agree with what you just said. We have to be patient. We have a couple more weeks. We're Americans. We can stand tall and strong in the trenches. I think about World War II, what my father went through, and we had to be strong. You know, we're being tested now, right now, and this is just terrible, all of it. We all know that. I thank you also, Mr. Mallard, agree with you. Going into Home Depot was just a shock to me. I was terrified. No one was wearing a mask in there. I, as a citizen, I don't like wearing it, but I wanted to because it's been proven that it might, you know, protect somebody. I don't want to, you know, spread a disease that we know so little about at this point in time. The other thing, I think, you know, let's see what else. Also, thank you, Mr. Strand. You put it succinctly what's going on. We, as a people of law, we have to respect our county. Everything is frustrating. The governor, I think, I'm not going to get political here, but he is given a lot of power to the counties, which I think is a great idea, but I respect my Kern County health officials, and I know that Mr. Strand in the hospital and the mayor is working extremely well and strong on this endeavor. And we have to show patience. They tell me it's a virtue. I know it's hard to get to that virtue for me right now, too, and for all of us. As far as coming with a mask, I'm going to make a joke here, mask phobia in the country. There's been no clear-cut, you know, policy as to wear it, not wear it, and I'm confused myself. I went to L.A. County yesterday, and I said, oh, wait a minute, I got to make sure I've got the mask in the car for sure because, you know, maybe I'm going to get arrested down there. You know, these crazy things are going through all of our minds. Here's an idea. I don't know if this is pertinent to the base and this and that. We have a lot of outsiders coming in, like you said. They're going to bring in more disease and this and that. A couple of my friends, we all were talking the other night, longtime residents of Ridgecrest. I said, you know what? I wish the city of Ridgecrest would pass an ordinance to say we all need to wear a mask. And I say that, and, you know, honestly, I said, well, why are you saying that? He said, because, look, we've got all these outsiders coming in. You know, other places have done it. We need to at least try the basic protection of 6 feet and a mask. What's so hard about that? And I thought, you know what? That's kind of a good idea. I don't know if it would pass here. I know I'm wearing my mask. I want to go to my local businesses, like all of us. I feel for these people. I mean, everyone is suffering. But again, we have a symbiotic relationship. Customer needs, business needs customer. If I walk into a business and I don't see anyone wearing a mask, I will not go back unless I see them trying to, do the right thing and have safety measures there. I just think it's so important. Even though we have a low incident here in town, we could become a hot spot tomorrow. And I agree, Peggy, when you said we're getting to the end, we're getting close. 3 more weeks. We're in the trenches. Let's show how strong we are. We're going to overcome this. And we're getting so close. And so anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. It's not just my thoughts. It's a bunch of my friends. I'm the one speaking for quite a few of them today. I understand where, Miss Lindsay's coming from. It's so frustrating, but I think we need to all calm down and listen to, direction from Mr. Heyman, Mr. Strand, Mr. Maurer. We're working with the county. We don't want to become I'll tell you what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of anarchy. Anarchy breaking up all over these little cities and places, and then dissension and disruption that we've never seen in this country before. We need to, steer the ship, be calm, work with the authorities, like Mr. Strand is standing strong. Peggy, you're standing strong. Mr. Maurer, Lindsay, I understand you're standing strong in your position, and I appreciate it. That's what freedom of expression is. We all have good ideas, and we need to listen. So anyway, I've said my piece. I hope it made some kind of sense. But, the mask is so important. It's been proven. And, what do we have to lose? Now, if you can't wear one, that's okay. We understand some people might not be able to wear one. But by God, I use a simple word. Let's just try. The word try. What do we have to lose? We might be saving our community. Thank you guys for listening and doing such a fantastic job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, let's go on. Is there any others, or yes, one? All right. Caller, please identify yourself and ask your question or your concern.
Yes, my name is Mike Neal, and I've managed to actually sit through this whole long discussion here. Heard some interesting statements. One thing I'd like to just throw out here is, unfortunately, what I'm seeing when I'm talking to elected representatives here. Talk to people who are supposed to be representing the people who put you in office, the people in Ridgecrest, and I see one person on the council that sound like that they've got a little backbone. Some that might actually get there, but don't appear to have any right now. And the prevailing sentiment is, let's just let the state tell us what to do. Just tell us, Governor, or tell us, County, tell us what to do. And we'll just get busy and make it happen. Let me tell you, you got a bunch of people in this town, in this valley, that are fed up with this. Now, I actually advocated the lockdown for a certain period of time because it made sense in the front end to stave off a huge amount of infection before we were ready to deal with it. We've gone way past that point, and listen to what you see the thousands of articles and everything out there. People need to have the chance to be exposed, and the ones that are healthy get their immunity, and the community move forward. It's like it's happened with every other disease since the dawn of time. You don't get healthy by staying closed up behind a piece of plastic all the time. And this county has had very small incidents of this virus, but the numbers are right there. And it's so small that it has to be basically, certainly on this side of the mountains, negligible, just simply negligible. Now, to continue to beg and plead with the state who, they don't understand us, and most people, a lot of people in this town will tell you they don't think they care about us. And we need your permission. Tell us what to do. That's not really representation that I want to see in my council. And I'm going to tell you, if you don't get busy and do something to open up everything, and you've talked all about with crocodile tears about how all these businesses, small businesses, are out of business. They've lost their income. Some of them are going to go out forever in a day. They've about had enough of it. And all it takes is 20% of a population to just say, forget you, we're not going to comply for any government to say, well, we can't deal with that. I guess we'll just let you go ahead and do it. Well, I guarantee you are right at that 20% right now. And those who are listening, I encourage you to just go ahead and not comply. Just say, I've had enough of it, and we're past the point of reason, and we're just not cooperating anymore, period. That's it. Now, the council won't support something like that in the next week, or maybe at the very most 2, then you're going to get some I believe you're going to get some serious lashback against you, in your positions, and possibly not get reelected, the ones of you that even care to try to do so, because people are just going to be mad, fed up. Broke people are not very happy people, as you probably figured out. And you got so many of those in this town that you got a problem. Now, if you won't even consider having a backbone like the city of Atwater did, and making Ridgecrest a sanctuary city and say, enough's enough, we don't have a problem here, and we don't have to keep acting like we have a problem just because the governor tells us act like we have a problem, then figure out a better alternative than what I'm hearing going on right now, or you're just going to see bad attitude. I mean, you've heard people fall. This is the reason Mr. Strand repressed release of the emails to the DI, because he didn't want the information to get out that so many people were against all this kind of thing. I guarantee you that. Or he can say different if he wants to, but it's sure what it looks like. And that kind of thing doesn't make people happy either. So get a backbone, people. Represent the people that live in this town and do what they need you to do, or you're going to get it made to happen without you. And that's the way it actually works.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, I would like us to figure out, is there another one? One more?
And after that, I think we need to move on. We've been
I was
here
going to
2
say,
hours
we
and
need to come to some sort of resolution here with the letter. I think it's very important we do that.
Can we
And-
just cut
but
off
let's get
public
this.
comment? Like, if people are still
No, we have
waiting?
public
I'm
comment right
just,
now.
we're doing it right now.
Right, but I'm saying if you're saying after this one,
I
if there's
wasn't
more.
saying we were going to shut public comment
Okay,
off.
that's what I just wanted to
I just
clarify.
said I'd like to find us, come to some resolution
Okay.
here. All right, caller, please identify yourself and state your question or comment.
Hi, Council. This is Butch Aziza.
Did anybody hear that?
I can't understand him.
Have you got your mute on, or are you listening on the television or your computer?
Mute is on.
You're blurry. You're not coming through clear.
Can you speak again?
Caller, can you hear us? Is he gone? Okay, sorry. If you'd like to try, come back in again. Is there any other callers? Okay, I see that there is none. Okay, let's try to come to some resolution here if there's no more public comment.
I move that we write a letter, and if we can get the hospital and, if we can get the county health officer to sign up on us appealing to the governor for a, variance for our city, I think we should, to move into phase 3 sooner.
I don't think it should be just for the city. I think it should be for the valley.
Yeah, I agree.
I will say that I can get you a copy of that letter. It's already been written.
But I
It
think
was a good letter.
I
It
mean,
was- it
I
was
have
already-
I have a copy of it. I just think it's important for us as a city to put a letter out for ourselves too.
She wants to come from the
disagrees
city
with you.
council is what she wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do one for city council just saying we encourage you to continue to do what you're doing.
No, I don't want to
Continue.
say continue doing what you're doing. I want to say we want
wanna
to
go to
move into
phase
phase
3.
3.
We wanna go to phase
I don't
3.
want to say continue doing what you're doing because
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't.
yeah, we can say we go to phase 3, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're already fighting for that anyway,
I think we all
so.
agree with that.
Yeah, they're already fighting for that
I
anyway.
want to say I don't like what you're doing. We want to.
Well,
move
we
into-
do like what they're doing. They're fighting for us.
No, I think-
I like what they're doing. I don't like, I'm saying I want a letter from the city to the governor, not a city to the county, so then the county I want to write a letter from the
Okay.
city to the governor saying, here's where we stand. We want to be in phase 3 now. Like, not these little
Okay, we got it.
Inchworm steps.
I,
I
Ricka,
want to be tactful.
Ricka, I
I don't want to
second
be
the motion.
threatening.
Okay.
Can
All right,
if I may-
we have a
if I may,
second?
If I may, this is, Madam Mayor?
Sir.
Madam Mayor, if I may, this is Lloyd Pilchin.
We know who you are.
I think if the direction is clear, if Ron is hearing clear direction from a consensus of the council, let's just call it direction to staff. I don't think it requires a motion and a vote.
Okay.
As long as there's an opportunity for everyone on the council to say that they're opposed to something, so that Ron is getting clear direction. But it's not an action item on the agenda, and I don't think we should have a vote.
All right, you've gotten clear direction, wouldn't you say?
Oh, my
Okay.
gosh.
All right, so let's go to the next item. Discussion and provide guidance to the city's representative on the board of the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority.
This is a little late, isn't it? You had your meeting yesterday.
Yes, since we didn't have a council meeting on Wednesday night, the Groundwater Authority Board meeting was the following day, so I could touch base just a little bit on a couple of the issues that we went over in that meeting and leave it at that. And if anybody has any questions, go ahead and feel free to bring them up. But a couple of the topics that we went over on the agenda were request for reconsideration for the groundwater sustainability report to the United States Navy. And that was had to do with a letter that had gone to the upper levels of the Navy to over the ground or imported water. And in a previous meeting, we had taken out the names of the projects, AVAC, which is the Antelope Valley connection, or the Department of Water, the LADWP connection up closer to us. So those were taken off the report, and so there was some confusion as to why. So we voted to put that back on. There was discussion on the independent general manager. Here soon, we're going to be looking at hiring or looking into the feasibility of getting a general manager, and so those are probably the two of the bigger topics. Follow up on Mojave pistachios per Councilman Stevens' question last week or last month was, the action was taken. There was a almost 8-month failure to pay on their part, so that was addressed by the board, and they were removed from the pack and tack side of the committees, and so, but they have the option of reapplying somewhere down the road. So other than that, I'm open to any questions anyone might have. Or
I had questions. On the LADWP thing, I heard there's conversation, the Inyo County rep, because with the application, they're saying they wanted the Navy to help them build because they could get water from LADWP, but then Inyo County read the email from Don Zaziba that was pretty clear that said that we can't get water from LADWP, and I was just wondering where that's going. And then also the fees. I hear, the 218 process we're going to start moving into, but it wasn't really clear if we've ever said publicly what those fees are going to be.
So in regards to the first question, if you were listening in on that conversation, the quote I think that Director Vallejo from Inyo was referring to was I believe a 2018 comment that Don Zadeba did clarify. So I think there was dispute on the validity of comments from dating that far back. So there was a 4-to-1 vote to put the two projects back on the names of the two projects back on the list. I think everybody knows the position of Inyo and the Department of Water and Power, their viewpoint on it. So in regards to the fees have been that's something that's going to be discussed and probably action items taking in the near future. So there's nothing to.
So there's not a range, like we don't, like when we talked about it early on when we were doing the Parks and Rec, we said very clearly up front what kind of fees we were looking at, like some sort of parameter, but I hadn't heard a real parameter put on these ones, so that's what I was curious about. If there's, I mean, if we know we're gonna go after money, then we have to have a dollar amount
And
in
do we have an
mind.
exact fee to, an answer for, as to an exact fee?
Or a range, an idea
I can't
for
give you
people to
a
start.
range or an exact fee at this
Okay.
point. I mean, no doubt that that will be addressed.
Okay.
But it hasn't came to that point of making
Okay.
giving a range or coming up with an exact fee.
But, so it was voted on to proceed forward with a 218?
Say that again?
Was it proceeded to move forward with the 218?
We didn't, that was not on the agenda.
Okay,
Yeah, so the fees, it's, like I said, that's going to be something that's going to be addressed here in the near future.
okay, that
So
replenishment fee?
You'll be,
Okay.
yes, replenishment fee, pumping fee, and, yeah, so nothing really to report on that at this point.
Okay, is there any other questions of Councilman Heyman? Okay, I see we have a caller that tried to call back. Caller, can we put you on? Caller, please identify yourself and ask your question or state your concern, please. Caller?
Sorry, I was on mute. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
please go
great.
ahead.
My name is Mike Neal, and I'll give the answer to Mrs. Stevens' questions about the fee. This is public information. The Groundwater Authority has published this information, put it out in their GSP report. It's in sent. Look at it for yourself. I took all the figures for all the projects. It's very easy to actually calculate the capital cost, the 30-year cost, to get a loan to pay for these. Then they put the annual, operating numbers down for each one. All you have to do is add them up and figure, give yourself a real good Christmas present and assume that you're going to get this imported water for only $2,000 an acre foot. That's a laugh, but that's what I used. Now, take those numbers, add them all up. It's real easy. It's not hard. And I provided this to the Water District, and I also provided this, by the way, Mr. Heyman, to the Groundwater Agency Board yesterday, right after the meeting, so I know you had the figures. The numbers are $1,100 to $1,900 per year per household for every single household in this valley. Now, I've said it about 3 times or more for various groups, and I'll say it again. This is back-breaking economic disaster for people in this valley. There are people in this valley who will not be able to continue staying here if they're charged that. And they are moving towards the Prop 218. It was on their schedule. They're going to move to adopt it next month. That's what their water resources manager presented as the schedule, and nobody said, no, we don't want to move that fast. They want the people to be being charged and taxed for this in September. That's the plan, and it's going to be somewhere close to that amount. Now, of course, I get ambiguous comebacks from Mr. Gleason, who says, oh, we think Mr. Neal's figures are inflated, but he has no anything, period. He has zero to back up what he says. He just wants to slap down what I present, which is numbers based on their own facts, their own figures. And Mr. Kaczynski wants to say that he's tired of hearing this. It's only $300 a year, but then he says, oh, well, I just put pen to paper, and he makes this a similar ambiguous statement. Now, if you don't think this is serious, wait till they make it happen. And then again, you want some really unhappy people in this valley. If you went to the Inyakern meeting years ago and it was only about making people put meters on their wells, and you saw the upset people out there, remember that, Mr. Strahan? Wait till this happens. Now, here's the biggest problem with all this.
Mike, we're not able to hear what you're saying.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The other problem with this is that this board is not even elected to do this job. They simply elected.
Whatever you're doing, it's doing it again.
I'm sorry, let me move or something else. Try this. Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. This board, as an unelected board, actually should have no power to do this kind of thing.
Mike, we're missing most of what you're saying.
Okay.
Whatever you're doing now that you didn't do before, don't do it.
No?
No.
Well,
Something you were doing before, you're doing now.
no?
Now it's good.
Now it's good? You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to try to proceed. This council needs to tell the GA board that they're not going to put a representative on this board. That all board and the activity needs to see that they need to immediately institute the process to put an elected GA board in place, or people are really, they're going to figure this out. They're going to figure out an elected board doing this to them, and it's not going to be a pretty thing.
Mike, please speak directly into the phone.
I am. There's just some problem. I'll just say enough for now. I can't do it. I'm having technical problems, so.
Is he done? Is that it?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, thank you. Okay, so is there no more comment on that or questions to Councilman Heyman? Okay, we will go to item number 4. The initial action by the City Council regarding the annual assessments for the Consolidated Landscaping and Lighting District 2012-1, adoption of the Resolution 1 initiating proceedings, 2, preliminary approval of the engineer's report, 3, declaring the city's intention to levy the annual assessments, and setting the date of public hearing. Mr. Lauer.
Madam Mayor, members of council, this is the initial action by City Council to initiate the process and declares the city's intention to levy the annual assessment within the Consolidated Landscape and Lighting District. This action also preliminarily adopts the engineer's report and sets the time and place for the public hearing on this issue. The formation of the Landscape and Lighting District was established in 2012 and subsequently has had future annexations to the district pursuant to the provisions of the Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972 and the California Constitution, Prop 218. Per the 1972 Act and Prop 218, the annual engineer's report and costs are prepared and a public hearing is required. The city is interested in perpetuating the district to continue a dedicated revenue source to fund the expenses related to the special benefits to properties in the district and to pay for ongoing maintenance, operations, and servicing of the local streetscape, landscaping, street lighting improvements established in connection with development of the properties within the boundaries of the district. Hang on, just to see if this is working. All right, so what I did for the Lighting and Landscape District is I put together a small report. At one point in time, we were asked what areas are included in each of the district. So zone 1 is in orange. Zone 1B and 1C are in blue, but they're not completely set at this point in time. Basically, if you see where it says, where the pink line goes down to the right, if you take that all the way down, that's zone 1B approximately, and the partial to the right of that is zone 1C. But 1 is the orange at this point in time. The left-hand side of Phase 1B is now built out, 2/3 of it at this point in time. Individual pieces, maintenance is about $15,000, utilities are $1,000, streetlights are about $3,500, rehab and rehabilitation is about $14,000, incidentals and other are $2,000, and the balance to levy is $23,000. 1B, maintenance is $4,300, utilities are $246, streetlights are $380, rehabilitation and replacement are $447, incidentals and other about $2,700, balance to levy is about $8,200. Hang on just a minute. And the reserves are $23,000 for 1. I forgot to mention that. Reserves are $10,000 for, wait a minute, hang on. I did not put the reserves for the first one. I apologize. Let me look real quick. Zone 1. Reserves are $54,000 at this point in time. Reserve, actually, the balance of levy is $8,200. Reserves are about $10,000, almost $11,000. Okay, zones 2 and 3. Zone 2 is the Walmart area. It's the light tan color. Zone 3 is the light blue. So it includes not only the tracks to the east, but it includes tracks to the west and to the south. So the maintenance for this one is, for Zone 2 is $13,665. Utilities are, we do not get any utility bills for this area, so it's zero. The street lights and traffic signal are about $6,000. Rehab and replacements about $2,000. Incidentals and other about $8,000. Bounce to levies $30,000, and the reserves are $40,000. Zone 3, which again would be the light blue, maintenance is $82.55, no utilities. Street lights are $16.70. Rehab and replacements $1,300. Incidentals are $27.50. Balance to 11, $66.71. Reserves are $69. Zone 4, this will be the first year that it's actually in this report. You can see here, it's off of Drummond, between Drummond and Chamorro. Maintenance is $972. Now, the reason this one is so low is because it's got DG around the entire outside. Utilities are zero because there will not be any watering or anything. Street lights are $759, rehab and replacements $275, and incidentals and others are $995.
Sorry, I have a quick question, because these, when we looked at this during infrastructure, we had more information, and so I don't see on this breakdown the administration costs.
It's within incidentals and other.
Okay.
And the reserves are $653. This is Zone 5. It's on the very west end of town, off of Drummond. Maintenance is $1,002. Utilities are zero. Streetlights are $759. Rehab and replacements $185. Incidentals and others are $808. That sounds incorrect. Let me look real quick. This is 4. Nope, that's correct. Balance to levies 2746, and the reserves are 349. Now that's the entirety of all the districts. The overall cost of the districts for the year is $78,390.
So I'm not on infrastructure committee anymore, so I'll have a lot of these questions that you probably answered before. So I apologize for that.
Or maybe not, so go ahead and ask.
Maybe not. So when we talk about these, each column of this money, some of that labor, hardware, what goes into each one of those costs?
Well, let's go back. It's got some numbers to it.
So let's just talk maintenance, right? If we see
Yeah.
$8,255, is a lot of that
Okay, for this one,
labor hours, man hours?
It is, we have a contract to do the landscaping. That's included in there. And then for maintenance, that would also include, sometimes there's sidewalk maintenance, if the sidewalks are included. There's a wall included in one of them. That would be one, which is not this one. There's some maintenance in that one because we're responsible for the wall as well, and there's graffiti removal if the wall's there. There's only one of them, which would be Zone 2, that has a traffic signal.
And then if we see there's a reserve and there's a balance to levy, could you talk about that for a minute?
Sure. The balance to levy is what it will cost the entire group of homeowners. Some of them are completely filled out. Some of them are not at this point in time. But that's what it would cost the entire group.
Right, but if there's a reserve, is that balance to levy?
Right. The reserve is what will be left over at the end of this year. You got to remember, this is the budget for July through June. And by next June, there should be $40,000 left over as a reserve.
Thank you.
So we had a lot of discussion on this during the infrastructure, and there was a number of things that you guys were re-looking into because numbers weren't adding up and whatnot. And so did we get all of that remedied?
We did, actually. I personally went out and counted every tree, got square footage to balance the cost of the maintenance between the different groups. We have a spreadsheet now that lists all the traffic lights and how they're divided out. We have how many square feet, how many trees, because we figured that the trees require more maintenance than the rest of it. We sat down and did all of that to make sure that we had a bid on our maintenance for the stretch around Walmart and the stretch that goes up College Heights and down Kendall. Two different bids, so it was easy to divide it up between those. But to divide it between 2 and 3, 1, 1B, and 1C, 1C didn't get any of it, by the way, because it's not built up yet at all. So yes, we absolutely did. You also asked for, the committee asked for, I do believe it was you in particular, though, for the maps to show specifically what's included in each of the groups. That is in the report as well, but I wanted to make sure that it got up here so everybody out there could see as well.
Yeah.
So yes, we did. We have been through these very carefully this year. There are some things we'd like to change, but at this point in time, we can't. Okay. So this is what it is for this year.
So, Bart, how are people notified? So this is all levied on their taxes, right? So
Yes.
how is the individual citizen and household notified that this is getting levied?
It actually well, first of all, they're notified today that there's an upcoming public hearing at the next council meeting. It's been advertised in the paper tomorrow. So it's advertised in the paper tomorrow that there's a public hearing. It also shows up on their tax bills, so that they would say, okay, well, what is this? And then they can call and ask.
So they only get the mail out thing at the beginning when they're voting on it.
Okay, let's just be really, really honest about this, okay?
Yeah.
When there is no mail out thing per se, okay, because it's a developer that owns the piece of property, and the developer votes the whole piece of property when it comes in. So the citizens that are in the group, are committed by the developer that put it together.
But, well, in the case of Walmart, I know we heard last year that there were citizens who voted on part of it because they got lumped in with the Walmart chunk.
They did.
So, but then after that, they rely on looking through the newspaper hearings notices.
Yes, I actually got a call from one of them a couple of weeks ago asking questions.
Okay. And so then, and to clarify, we do this today, but then we're going to do it again at the next council meeting.
You tentatively approve the engineer's report today, and you set notice that we're having the public hearing 2 weeks from last Wednesday. So on June
3rd.
June 3rd. Thank you. I'm sorry. I just didn't remember when the next one was.
Okay.
Actually, it's.
I'm not proposing we do any changes today, Bard, but I know in infrastructure, there's discussion about, especially that one that had a reserve of over $50,000.
Actually, that's the one I completely forgot to put on, but I did read it as we started.
Yes, you did. I think we need to look at, I don't think we need a $50,000 reserve. So I think infrastructure needs to look at this throughout the year to maybe adjust down so we use up some of that reserve rather than tax it.
So.
Yeah, because that's the $40,000 reserve too, just making sure we're not building up huge reserves.
One reserve is only $600 and some, but.
Well, it's fairly new too.
Yeah, but I think the ones that have really built way up, I think we need to look at them. I don't think we need a reserve of more than 100% of the levy.
I would agree in most cases, okay? The thing with the Zone 1 here is we lost $12,000 out of reserve to make it balance this year. So I would not suggest that where we have a negative, where we're in the negatives on one, that we reduce the reserves.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to have a big discussion now about it, but I want to look at it in infrastructure, and then we can discuss the pros and cons.
Yeah, because we had lots of questions there, and that's where I don't want to just drop all those discussions because we're approving it here. I want to make sure we go back to it in infrastructure, because we had a much more detailed spreadsheet that we had lots of questions over.
And that's exactly why I was asking the question about that relationship between what's levied and the amount that was there. So thanks, Mr. Maurer, for clarifying.
The what's levied in the amount that's there, you have to look at the EB I'm sorry, EBUs, which means that it's, how much is charged to each piece. If it's undeveloped, you get a much bigger piece for the same EBUs.
Sure.
As
Yeah.
you do for a home that's developed.
Yeah, I recall us going through it in painful detail.
I'm sorry.
Nope.
So anyway, that is my report on this. Are there more questions?
But we're hoping that in the out years, that if we do have, once the reserves are built up, we need to identify specifically what do we need. You know, if we're going to be like the one, you have a street light, you know, if we're looking at street light upgrade or repair, there has to be a fund there built for that replacement over time. But I do believe that once we reach that certain reserve, we should be reducing the levy down. And then if we spend part of the reserves, we can then we can adjust it back up. And that's one of the things I think that Bart and his staff are trying to do, is to dial us into where we need it. And that's part of the benefit of us taking it to infrastructure, is that additional set of eyes and oversight on this.
Yeah, that's the only comment I have. Otherwise, I'm fine. Is that it?
Is there any other discussion? Is there any discussion from the public on this particular item?
Nope.
I'm saying no. I'm seeing no. Okay.
I will make a motion to approve the requested action.
Second.
Do we need to read the 3 separate resolutions, Lloyd?
We do, and I don't actually have that in
Let
front
me
of me. I'm
pull,
sorry.
let me pull it up.
I read it when we first brought it up. Want me to read it?
So I need to initiate the proceeding. Uh-oh, we have a call coming in.
We don't have, we have to
And then
have,
preliminary approval.
we have to have 3 separate motions, or can't we just have the?
It says 3 resolutions to approve individually, but we have a call.
What do you want on my agenda?
Yeah.
You gotta call it the resolution.
Okay, well, we're discussing this. Let's take that phone call. Caller, please identify yourself and ask your question or comment. Caller?
We can't hear you.
Is the caller on the line?
I can hear him talking, but it's like it's not at this
Caller,
speaker.
can you turn your mute off and
Nope.
talk?
No,
Is that Mike again?
I don't think so.
Caller?
Is that our equipment that's doing that? Not us.
It's not us?
Do you want to try to call?
What?
Who was it? Okay.
Oh, that's Chuck.
Chuck Ruland.
Chuck, do you want to, can he call like my cell phone and I can hold it up to the mic if we think it's the speaker? We can't hear anything you're saying, Chuck. All right, well, I was doing it.
Can we call in on that phone and put him next to your speaker? Back there so it comes to all of us?
Yeah, it sounds clear when he calls in on that phone.
Can we try it again?
Yeah, we definitely need to upgrade this system. Or probably replace it, not upgrade it.
Yeah.
It's 30 years old.
So you're saying I
Are you
approved that
there?
back when I was on council before?
I can try on my phone and hold it up to the mic. Will that work, Gary? Okay.
Well, he's still on the line, so you don't.
Oh, I've been too. Oh. Okay.
Can you turn that one on, Lindsay?
Yep, it's on.
Go ahead.
Okay, So the couple questions I had, number one, do we know what the fixed cost is for the LS1 with the LED lighting now that we've signed that new agreement where it got reduced by, I don't know, 30%? That was one of my questions. On the actual reserves.
Well, hang on, Chuck. Why don't you let me answer the one as we go?
Chuck, hold on.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is it reduced it by a very small amount. A couple of percent was all it reduced it by, because we're paying for 20 years to pay for the new LED lights. Now, it's not been initiated yet because they haven't started yet.
Okay, but it's still a fixed cost, so and it should. I mean, do we should have that figured out what that fixed cost is? I would assume. If not, can we get that?
I didn't bring it with me, but what I can tell you is it hasn't gone into effect yet because they haven't put a single light in yet. We've got a letter. We had a request into John from SCE King, I believe, John King, requesting to know when they're going to get started, and then when we can expect to see the money. Our costs be reduced. We have not heard back from him yet. We put that in when you sent it to me the same day.
Okay. Another question I had: incidentals and replacement. So we have that reserve in all of the districts. And for example, Walmart. I don't have the plan, but we need to take a look at the plan and find out how much of the plant life we've actually lost, and decide if we're going to use that replacement money to actually replace it, or the engineer needs to come back in and readjust his engineer's estimate as far as the maintenance goes. It's based on square footage and also plant life.
Actually, Chuck, it's not. It's based on the cost that the bid that we got from the different companies. We picked we did a rated review of the bids based on experience and cost. And it's based very strictly, with the exception of yours, your two, it's based very strictly on the actual cost of the contract.
Okay, so on the incidentals and replacement then, do we plan on using that for incidentals and replacement?
Hang on. Well, it's not incidentals and replacement, it's incidentals and other. Okay, it's got a reserve fund to make sure that if...
It even on the... let me look at the report. Maybe I read it wrong, but... Here we go. It's called a rehabilitation and replacement.
Right, that's a cost in case we have to do...
I think that the whole report should be seen and studied by every council member, honestly, to get a real good idea of what's in these to come up with these total numbers. But that's just me, because I'm looking at my zone right now, and they've got, I'm looking at zone 3 actually, and I'm looking at it, it's got tree rehabilitation and replacement. And I don't have 1 and 2 sitting in front of me, but I'm certain it has the same thing. And we've lost about 50% of our plant life there, and if we're going to be charging for replacement and rehabilitation, that's where that money would go, I would assume. And so we need to make a decision, are we going to do that? And if not, we shouldn't be charging for it.
We will be replacing trees. We're not going to do it during the summer, obviously. And as for the plant life, I couldn't tell you if we've lost any or not, because I don't know at this point in time. I know there's maybe 3 or 4 trees.
I have. There's in my 2 tracks, the street lights are exactly the same dollar amount, and just figuring out the calculation, unless it's a ballpark number. If we're in LS1 and we have a fixed cost,
it's $12.75 per month per light.
Whatever the other track is. So, anyways, just my concern is one day we're going to have somebody to answer to on this. If neighbors get together and actually they're going to want to see real data, and they're going to want to see where it came from. And that's just my opinion. I've got mine negotiated and done and whatever. The people that have the houses will be dealing with it later. But I think from a city standpoint, we want our numbers to be accurate based off, like Ellis one, it doesn't get any easier than that. They're fixed costs. So you just times that by the street lights. And it should come up, if one track has 15 lights or 11 lights and the other one has 13, both of those numbers shouldn't come up to $759 if we're going to have to explain
Actually,
it.
both of yours have exactly the same if you go out and count. I did.
If that's all I really got to say. I mean, I don't want to, there's nothing else to say. I think that the numbers on, if we have LS1 fixed cost, the street light should be figured as that. And then if we're going to charge replacement costs, we should have an actual replacement plan, because again, these are districts where, like Walmart's never going to care, but some of these other districts might. If we're charging for X amount of plant life that was originally on the original landscaping plan, and we're continuing to do that for X amount of years, and we lose half the plant life, it should be adjusted, or the replacement money should be used to replace the plants.
And actually, Chuck, as I said, it's being charged exactly what.
Anyways, I appreciate your time. That's all I really had to say.
So infrastructure committee, you guys have looked at all these issues that Chuck's had.
Yeah, we had quite a discussion on them, and we, like I say, we'll review them through the year, so we have them all ironed out by the time we come here next year.
Yeah, because we said we didn't want to wait until the end, like this year, because we had a bunch of questions, but we knew we were on the time crunch up against this deadline. So I think we do need to start looking at it earlier out as well. I think we might have another call.
That's something that consistently comes up, that comes up to the infrastructure committee, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, this is actually the
It
first
only
year it's
comes-
ever come to the committee.
Yeah, it's
This
is the
We
first.
asked as a council for it to come to the committee.
Right, this
So
is
we're
the
coming
first
to the committee
year.
every year.
Yeah, but I
Yes.
think, what we are saying is we want to start looking at it much farther out and understanding
So we have
it.
time to
Yeah,
adjust
so we can
it.
actually make changes.
Right.
So Bart, I heard some discussion about the lights going to LED, right? And that was going to be a certain amount of cost savings. And at some point I've asked you in an email, but I'm sure it got lost in a sea of emails.
No, it didn't.
If we ever think about going to solar powered lights.
We discussed it at the infrastructure committee, probably just before you got on the infrastructure committee. And what was discussed was the initial cost is so much higher for them that it would cost the developers a small fortune to put in solar lights as opposed to putting in the regular lights, that it didn't seem feasible.
We also discussed at infrastructure reviewing Bakersfield and how they were doing it, and we were going to talk about that
For the
some
lighting
more.
and landscape district.
Yes,
Not for
the
solar lighting.
Right, for the lighting and landscaping this
Right.
year. I just want to mention that because their costs for processing are much lower.
They also have a staff that's dedicated to that works on other things. They also have a very large district. This was discussed, I think, last time.
Right.
So that they actually have a group of their own people to go out and do the physical work, which cuts it down if you're not doing it by contract. There's a lot of reasons that theirs is considerably less expensive, but Lauren will be reporting again, I think, next Thursday?
Next Thursday is our meeting.
Yeah,
So
next Thursday.
So Lindsay, you and Mr. Maurer, you guys did some sort of a cost benefit analysis. So solar lights, that's just a no-go. That's a non-starter ever. I just want to make sure I
wouldn't say
understand.
ever, but right now the cost is prohibitive.
Yeah, when we looked at it, I mean, it was, when everything was open, we had a number of developers even there listening to the presentation. And from the company that we listened to, the cost he was proposing, it was definitely significantly higher and not to their benefit. Now, maybe at some point in the future, the cost will go down. Maybe there's a different company that has a cheaper option. Also, the CSA thing that is on the infrastructure agenda, which is like what Lancaster did, maybe at some point that might be an alternative as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
I make a motion that we initiate the proceedings. That's what has to be done,
That's the
right?
first one, correct? There's 3 of them.
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Mr. Blades?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Well, now, hang on, you got to do this in 3 parts.
Yeah, that's what I-
We're working on it.
Okay, so the preliminary
number one.
Okay,
approval,
well, I have to tell you what 1 is.
initiating the proceedings. Now
Okay.
we're doing 2, preliminary approval of the engineer's report.
All right, that's.
Motion.
Second.
Mayor? Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Mr. Blades?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries. We got it, Barb, we got
Don't
it.
panic, Barb, we got you covered.
All right, number 3.
We got your back.
Declaring the city's intentions to levy the annual assessment and setting the date of the public hearing for June 3rd.
Second?
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Mr. Blades?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
So, I'm going to read exactly the same thing I did before, but put in the drainage assessment district as opposed. So, this is the initial action of the city council to initiate the process and declares the city's intention to levy the annual assessment for the city's 1 drainage district. This action is also preliminary, adopts the engineer's report and sets the time and place for the public hearing on this issue. The formation of the drainage districts was established in 2012. There's not any future annexations provided, but it can be, just like the other one was. An annual report, the costs are prepared, and the public hearing is required. This is perpetuating the district to continue a dedicated reserve source for the funds to take care of this drainage district. And that's all. So again, you will do this in 3 parts. Now,
Yeah.
I do want to make one comment before we start. I spent 40, 60, 80 hours on the lighting and landscaping district. I missed something by not being able to spend an equal amount of time on the drainage district, okay? So I don't know what we can do about it, but what I would like to do is we either need to eliminate the levy administration and professional services or the consultant fees, which is what we did do on the lighting and landscape district. So that will eliminate approximately, hang on a minute. Miranda, you're out there, right?
Yes, I am here.
Okay. So as we did with, Miranda's with Wildan. As we did with the lighting and landscape district, we decided that we didn't need both of these. We only needed one of these, correct? Because we're not going to hire a consultant to do any work on the drainage district itself. So all we need is
Right.
it levy administration and professional services yours, or is the consulting fee yours?
The consulting fee is ours.
So I'm proposing that we make a change on this to eliminate $1,856.58 from this district, which will lower the overall amount.
What work, because we didn't review this one.
I did review it.
I'm just saying in infrastructure. So what work has been done on this district? Can you?
Well, if you take a look, there's a 0 maintenance. I've talked to Les. There's
Okay.
almost nothing that needs to be done to upkeep this one over the next year. So the maintenance is 0.
Okay.
So that, maybe next year we'll need to go in and redress the slopes and stuff, which will be a couple of $100 to $1,000. But this year, we do not, because we didn't have huge rains this year.
Thank you.
What?
All right, last year we had a lot of rains. This year, we didn't have nearly as many.
We had some pretty large rain events. but-
Where is this drainage district?
It is up on College Heights. It's at Sid, no.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, we had a lot of snow too.
We had two major snowstorms.
Further north of that.
And the last rain we had, I went down to the
It
Bowman
lasted
Channel.
like
and it was-
3 days. The last
really
rain.
running.
Yeah.
North of that. No, that's south.
So
All right, anyway,
I'm just curious, why do we not have a drainage district where there's a giant drainage
There
ditch?
is actually,
Okay.
there is a very large drainage retention pond at the very north end of 1B, 1C.
Uh-huh.
I want to say it's Sidnor, but Springer, there we go. At the corner of Springer and College Heights, there's a very large
Okay.
drainage retention area. All of the streets and stuff will drain to that. As we have that area more developed, there will be a need to take better, to spend more time on it. But right now, it has not been a problem.
Is there any water draining into that drainage?
There is some, but there's not lots.
I was gonna say, when I drove around town the last rain, every place was full except that one. Well, excuse me, the Home Depot one gets
Right.
a little bit of water, but not a
Well,
lot.
the Home Depot one back behind it is all sugar sand, and it just goes right straight through, no matter how much goes in.
But the Norma sump was full. Bowman Road was
Yeah,
a major river.
that's what I was talking about, is why don't we have the Bowman Road?
Because there was, okay, from what I understand, when the Walmart was put in, they were tasked with putting it in.
They did put it in.
And they took care of the plantings at the bottom until they were developed, and there was a watering system that's been, turned off now that it's developed. But it is a city-maintained, because all the water that comes down to it is not off the Walmart property.
Okay.
No, 90% of it's down College Heights.
But now, College Heights, speaking of that, now, once this community is developed there completely, then the waters will run down the roads and stuff, and will come into that.
But right now, they're running down College Heights.
A lot of it, yeah. Or they're going out into the desert where it's just dissipating.
So that dollar amount change was 1,856.
50, looks like 6.
So is it $1,856?
Yes, totally removed.
And 86 cents.
And 86 cents?
So how much is it gonna be then? I wanna know.
Just a
that.
minute. 18, sorry. 1856.56. So it'll be reduced to $6,560.57. Now, the individual assessments, the levies will be reduced as well, but I can't do all that math right here. We will bring a corrected one to the meeting
On June 3rd.
for the public hearing.
Okay.
Right, Miranda?
Yes, that's correct. We will make updates.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other council discussion?
I'm confused.
There is.
So how much so the total cost is 6,000 and something?
$6,560.
But it says the total annual maintenance cost is 5,400.
The total maintenance is zero. Incidental administration and expenses is about, it's less than 20, maybe 2,800-ish, because I can't subtract that quick. Public math is difficult.
I'm just looking at what's in the report. It says fiscal impact, the total annual maintenance cost to the district is $5,439.96.
That's maintenance, operation, and incidental expenses. That includes reserve fund collection, levy administration, printing and publishing, mailing and postage, county collection fee, city overhead, and then the consulting fee. Now, the levy administration, professional services just went away because we're not planning to do any physical work that we need a consultant to help us design to this.
Okay, but how come this figure wasn't in here?
This is the supplemental agenda. That was sent out on Monday.
The lighting and landscaping district report and the drainage district report weren't in the original agenda packet.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, it came in
No, they came out on
in this
Monday. We
big
didn't get them
agenda.
from Miranda until Monday, that's why they were late. And we didn't get them from Wildan, excuse
So
me.
you emailed them?
I sent out the supplemental on Monday to everybody, yes.
And it's posted
I guess I
online.
missed that one. My problem with my emails, I don't know if the rest of you have a problem. I get so many of them, and so many of them are national junk and stuff like that that still goes to my emails. Does everybody else have that problem too? So when I go through my emails, I have a hard time sorting out important stuff from the totally worthless stuff.
So
I
was
mean,
this
I
the
get a
important stuff?
PVC report at least every week on PVC pipe.
What I often do is I search for Rika's name in my email.
So you just go through the emails, look for Ricky's name.
I do. Like, that's what I just did to find the supplemental agenda to open it, is I
Okay.
search for Rika's name, or I'll search for Ron's when I'm looking, or Bard's when I'm looking for, so that way I can find the documents.
Okay, is there any
Okay.
other discussion then?
Yeah, real quick, two things, Bard. I'm going to ask some more junior questions on purpose for
Well,
the
you
public.
gave me a copy
So,
when I came in.
so is it just like landscape lighting districts when we talk about these drainage benefit assessment districts? Is it the same situation? They get levied on people's taxes?
They do,
et cetera.
exactly the same way.
Okay.
We only have one, and that's the old Horton.
And will it be one of, are there more to come?
Maybe, okay? A lot of times, what happens is that the neighborhood will have a single lot dedicated as the sump for the entire neighborhood. Most neighborhoods aren't as big as all three tracks for the Hortons. And they'll dedicate it as a park, or they'll dedicate it as something else. And that's the way that works. But the answer is, there probably will be in the future, but right now, there's just the one.
Thank you. And so can we even motion to move forward if the report isn't accurate?
The report can change between this meeting, because you could tell me, make this change, and I would have to.
And then you'll be approving it, the final report at the hearing.
At next meeting.
And because that final report is what goes to be levied on their taxes. So
So-
this is just declaring that we are accepting an engineer's report and we're scheduling the public hearing for
Okay, so if we motion to approve, is this motion to approve it with
the
XYZ changes?
Yes, with the
And we know
changes
exactly what those changes are right
to
now.
remove the 1,856 and 58 cents.
And if it was to come back to the next meeting and it didn't have what you stated, we could just carry over the public hearing to the next meeting, or probably have to have a special meeting to meet the deadline.
Because we got to meet the deadline.
Right. But it doesn't mean you have to approve it if it's still wrong at the next one. We can still move forward.
Understand?
So, everybody was asking where it is. Here's the track. It's that little rectangle in the lower right-hand corner. I
Yes,
can't quite
it's
read it. I
blurry.
think it says sump.
This one.
Well, I'm sorry, I just remembered I had this from the previous one, so.
Okay, can we go back to the slide, Gary, that had the three things listed, please?
Oh,
Thank you. All right, I motion to initiate the proceedings with the modified change of striking the levy administration and professional service amount of $1,856.58.
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Mr. Blades?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
I motion the preliminary approval of the engineer's report, subject to the change as mentioned previously.
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Mr. Blades?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
I motion to declare the city is intent to levy the annual assessment and setting the date of the public hearing for June 3rd with the modified changes.
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Mr. Blades?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, we are on to the next item. Can I ask a big favor? Can we take no more than a 2-minute or
Please,
3-minute break?
yeah, I need to go to the bathroom.
Me too.
That's why I was about to say, let's just bump this item. I need to go to the bathroom.
Okay,
You guys.
5 minutes,
You guys with
everybody.
baby bladders? You know where I'm headed.
Yeah.
discussion and potential action on limiting installation of 5G technology in Ridgecrest.
Yes, so this is my item. So I just wanted to bring it back and discuss what committee we wanted to discuss the ordinances in. I mean, I know we had talked about multiples, and I was suggesting that we take it to economic development over infrastructure because infrastructure is overloaded. But economic development, the reason why I said that one is because it would be easy to bring Heather in, who would be the person administering, kind of overseeing the antennas and permits and things. And so that was why I was suggesting, as well as we said that there was economic development concerns. So that's why I figured it could be related.
Well, the only other reason I would say let's kick it to economic development is because we should be looking at how we are going to embrace the technology and how that's going to help enterprise, right? So we know that right now, 5G technology is it's sort of out of its infancy stage. The technology is out there, but it's used more by larger businesses. The sector is still growing. They have a long ways to go. But if maybe we're a little bit more forward thinking about how we're going to use it in town, right? And I think that falls right in the economic committee's lap. I'm not just saying that because I'm on the committee.
Sure you are.
But I am saying it because I think it's a genuine interest, right? Everybody often complains.
Let me ask you one question. I was told the towers have to be every 500 feet or something like that?
So that is a true statement. The towers do
Right.
have to be
Yeah.
closer together, but it also depends on the specific antenna. It depends on the power they're operating at. There's a few factors in there that we could dive way into if you want to.
No, not tonight, I don't.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, and in some instances.
Well, there's
this-
another reason to kick it to economic.
We did say that
Since
we were
it's
going to
some-
read the letters. Are we going to defer reading the letters back to committee, or are we going to read the letters?
Well, the one letter was published in the newspaper today, but
Which one was that?
the Scott O'Neill letter. The only one that he
The
said.
O'Neill one on
Yeah.
5G.
So there's-
on 5G.
Oh, is there? I think that we should, personally, Madam Mayor, it's your meeting. I think we
I
should read
think
them.
we need to read them because we told people we were going to read them. So if nobody has an issue, a major issue other than let's do it, because that was our promise. So Rika, if you would read those letters.
The first one is from the IWV EDC. Dear Mayor Breeden, at the May 5th, 2020 City Council meeting, the topic was raised on the public safety of the 5G cellular network technology. 5G is the fifth generation technology standard for the cellular telephone industry. It is the planned successor to the 4G LTE network standard on which the current industry is built. Just like it will everywhere, 5G will have a major impact on the economy of this community. This past week, I asked 6 local experts for their thoughts on the 5G technology, its installation, and any associated issues. This letter reflects the IWV EDC's thoughts and those of the experts. It is offered for your consideration in making any decisions regarding the local rollout of 5G. The deployment of telecommunication systems based on the 5G standard began last year and has resulted in some pushback due to public health worries and interference with the other radio frequency RF systems, like the Global Positioning System, GPS. 5G offers significant performance improvements and economic benefits over the 4G LTE capability. It will be faster, especially when transferring very large data files, more secure, and have higher network reliability. 4G LTE is already showing signs of being overburdened. We have experienced this in emergency situations where many people are trying to contact their loved ones and first responders all at the same time. With 5G, there are 3 frequency bands: a low frequency band, 600 to 700 megahertz, a mid band, 2.5 to 3.7 gigahertz, and a high band up above 25 gigahertz. Current cellular services already use major portions of the low and mid bands allotted for 5G. Radio waves are absorbed by the atmosphere according to their frequency. Water in the air increases the absorption. High frequencies are absorbed faster, so they travel much less distance. Increasing the transmission power increases the range. This means long-range transmissions to remote areas will use lower frequencies and power levels. Suburban areas and rural areas will need mostly mid and low band capabilities. This is the case for Ridgecrest. It is driven primarily by need and cost. The high band is for short-range applications. These are much more costly in part because transmitters have to be spaced closer together. As such, the high band is intended primarily for use in densely populated areas like cities, entertainment venues, etc., where people are close together and there are high data transmission demands. High band applications in low population areas will be driven strictly by demand. 5G receives some fair criticism from the NOAA and NASA regarding its potential interference with weather satellite data transmissions. Recently, DoD has declared that 5G will impact some GPS performance. The former has been resolved, but the latter is still open. The Navy expects our local governments to notify them in advance of any installation of new 5G equipment so they can help tailor the installation to minimize any encroachments on its operations. The 4G LTE signals had significant impacts that required IWV TV Booster Incorporated to vacate the frequency bands used by 4G LTE and now 5G low band. Reception of TV signals in Ridgecrest will not suffer interference from 5G signals. There has been a lot of banter on the internet. Much of it is uninformed about health concerns associated with 5G. While RF energy from any source can be dangerous, these dangers are generally associated with high power applications. These situations and their health implications are fairly well understood and are the reasons for establishing field strength limits for radio transmissions. Equipment and installation designed appropriately by competent engineers do not violate these limits. Handheld transmitter receivers, i.e. cell phones, use very low power levels and thereby pose little hazard. That said, there are concerns, conceivable but without experimental basis, that cumulative efforts of exposure, even to low power levels, might be hazardous, but this hazard, if at all exists, is present to similar degree with 4G and LTE. Yes, the high-band 5G is new, but it, like the other bands, is used in very low power modes. High-frequency waves are blocked at the outer layer of the body by the high water content of the skin. The experts I talked to unanimously agreed that the health risks of 5G is no worse than that of 4G LTE and other electromagnetic radiation sources we currently live with. Some final thoughts to consider. 5G has huge economic upside with improvements in performance over 4G LTE, particularly improved data transfer rates and network reliability and improved security. It will enable the Internet of Things, real-time augmented reality, very high-end video streaming, etc. The investment to hook everyone up will be huge, so expect that access to full 5G capabilities will be a direct function of the population density being served and the demand. Denying access to 5G locally will only serve to hurt Ridgecrest. The concerns associated with specific tower placements in the city can be controlled by existing means, in example, zoning and planning commission decisions. In the USA, 5G is being rolled out now, and this will continue. Ridgecrest without 5G will have a deleterious effect on the tech-savvy demographic of our community. It would be akin to denying broadband internet access and relying on dial-up access. Professionals accustomed to high-performance networks may choose to not come to IWV, and it might become a factor when deciding to stay. I believe this should be a huge concern to the city. I know it is to the IWV EDC. Please do not prohibit 5G advancement in our city. Sincerely, Scott O'Neill, Executive Director of the IWV EDC.
Thank you.
I
know we have more.
I have two others.
Madam Mayor?
Yes?
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, Lloyd.
Yes, sir.
May I suggest that, this is Lloyd Pilchin, may I suggest that letters be treated like public comment and be cut off at 5 minutes?
The rest of them will be, sir.
Just a thought.
They're smaller. Gladly.
Could we also just post them online, Lloyd, in the minutes, the full letters?
You know, let me put it this way. First of all, the chair, Madam Mayor, has the discretion to handle it any way she'd like. I'll just say that the general rule about public comment is that people have the right to speak before the council acts. And my understanding is that this is simply a discussion item and that there's no action tonight. So I would have no problem with not reading them out loud, but it's absolutely up to the chair.
Well, we had made the promise that we would, and I know the other two were rather short. When the request was made by Mr. Neal to read, I responded back to ask Ricka to read it. I said, I will ask if it can be done, so be it. And then others came in and wanted to have, I guess, somebody told them that that one was going to be read, so that the others wanted to be read also, but they're shorter and smaller. There's only two more. So in the future, we will say that it cannot be part of the record except part of the written record and will not be read. Is that correct, sir?
I think he said it's your discretion.
Again, it's going to depend on what it will depend on what the action is. If the council is going to vote on something, then there has to be an allowance for public comment. And in these days when we're doing it all remotely, the council could, or the staff could adopt a policy that you do it by email. It's allowed. But I'm just saying that if you had a ton of these letters tonight and you decided not to do it, I don't think it would be a problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's finish the markup, please.
Okay, I'm going to start the timer on this one. I'm going to cut myself off. This is from the RACVB. Dear Mayor and Council members, the Ridgecrest Area Convention Visitors Bureau, along with the Ridgecrest Regional, I'm going to try and read faster too, along with the Ridgecrest Regional Film Commission, works towards increasing visitors and filming to the region, more specifically to promote hotel stays and increasing local spend and supporting the city's hospitality economy. We are writing to lend support for the deployment of 5G technology to support filming, visitor experiences, and the planned California Welcome Center in Ridgecrest. 5G is the 5th generation of wireless network technology that will bring faster, more reliable connections by increasing download speeds up to 10 gigabytes per second and offering a latency as low as 1 millisecond, vastly faster than the 40 to 60 milliseconds available via 4G networks. In order to roll out 5G, small cells need to be installed, as they are an essential part of eventual 5G deployment. Small cells are radio equipment and antennas that are much smaller than traditional cell towers, as their name implies, around the size of a pizza box. They are often placed on streetlights, the sides of buildings, or utility poles. During the Ridgecrest City Council meeting of May 5th, 2020, there was discussion that appeared to discuss support of an amicus curiae brief to enjoin an effort to prevent 5G deployment in Ridgecrest. The RACVB believes it is critical that Ridgecrest develop a direction toward becoming a technology leader, not only to support tourism and filming, but to support economic development which would to attract talent for the region's technology partners. We also believe that the community should be protected and that there are ways to adopt new technologies while establishing local oversight to monitor any concerns of the community. 5G technology is also important to the future of our entire community, not just the tech sector. 5G will increase capacity to provide more reliable cellular service, close the health equity gap by powering improvements in telehealth, like remote surgery and remote clinic services, and support smart city technologies that will move people and goods more safely and efficiently. We encourage the City of Ridgecrest to find ways to speed up its permitting processes to help bring small cell technology to our city while establishing protections and a monitor program for its citizens. Ridgecrest should be a city built for the future, and small cells will play an important role in making that happen. Thank you for your continued commitment to our community. Respectfully, Doug Luke, Executive Director of the RACVB. I have one more. It's very short. My comment is that studies pertaining to the effects of 5G frequencies on humans are not meaningful unless vetted and peer-reviewed by medical and technical experts. Doctors endorsing the studies on social media is not a qualified peer review. And lastly, the City Council should not be governing whether to limit 5G. It's a national and global issue, and the city should wait and follow potential guidance from the FCC and Health and Human Services. And that's from Jay Chen.
Okay, thank you. I know that many people were concerned about us signing the amicus brief as it was stated on the agenda to be against this, and I understand that you're changing the request now, Lindsay, is that correct?
Well, originally it was that Lloyd was going to look into the amicus brief and bring back what it specifically was and if there was an opportunity for us to sign it and to discuss that. And then also if we want to look at adopting ordinances on how to guide this in, because we had found out that banning it isn't even an option, but we knew that we could adopt some policies on how it comes in. And then I also learned that testing to make sure that they're operating within those ranges. FCC sets the ranges, but they don't monitor to make sure that they're being operated within of the safety limits. And so cities like Davis, Berkeley, and Burbank, examples in California, are ones that have adopted random testing to ensure that those towers are being operated within the limits safely. And so that's what I was wanting us, and I have sent out to the staff to show that there's a wide range of ordinances that we can look at adopting. And so I think we should take it into a committee to go through those to see what we want to do, and then bring it obviously back to council for adopting ordinances.
Okay, so we're sending it then to economic development? Okay, direction, that's done.
You got one time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Caller?
And I got to announce now, I got to leave at 4:30 whether we're done or not.
Caller, please state your name and address, or name and voice your question and concern.
Okay, my name is Mike Neal. First, I have one preliminary question. Earlier in the discussion on the COVID thing, you gave Chuck Rowland easily 10 minutes to speak. So are you going to cut me off at 5 minutes this time so I can't finish, or what? I need to know.
Was it 10 minutes? Well, I was watching the clock. Was it 10 minutes? No.
She had
Because we had it 5 minutes, and that's what we're working on.
I can guarantee you he went well over 5 minutes.
Well, because we were talking between it, as I was keeping track of his 5 minutes by our discussion back and forth. So if you want to talk for 5 minutes, you're more than welcome to talk for 5 minutes.
Okay, so now I know how to tailor it. Okay, I'm going to have to be a little blunt on Scott O'Neill then, because I had some specific comments on what he wrote. But, I had so many. Let me just say that unfortunately, in this instance, if I had been sitting, listening, and looking at something that somebody presented with a lack of fact and some of the kind of statements that Scott O'Neill wrote in this letter as some kind of technical presentation, I would quickly be losing confidence that the person that I was listening to knew what they were talking about. He has numerous errors and unwarranted statements in this letter, okay? And since you only give me 5 minutes, I don't have time to address all that, so you're going to have to be...
Well, it can go to committee, sir.
Well, I'll bring it to the committee.
Okay, thank you.
But I put almost no stock in the letter that Mr. O'Neill wrote, okay? He just simply got about 5 or 6 just erroneous statements in here, period, that's all. And others that lead you down a rosy path to think that 5G is going to be just fine. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not going to be just fine. Like I tried to explain to you last week, you're going to be blasted by this thing. And when he says that you're only going to get the low and mid-band 5G, well, you don't get the high speeds from that because you can't get the bandwidth. The only way you can get it is the high-frequency stuff. And what you wouldn't let me finish explaining last week is because that high-frequency thing is talk about being put in a pizza box. It's very high frequency, so that's enough space for them to do beamforming and shoot out little 1-degree wide pencil beams of energy. So you can actually just, realistically think about receiving signals from this high-frequency 5G system like little laser beams of RF energy coming at you. Now, it doesn't stop at your skin. There's so much power there, like I demonstrated last time, up to over 900,000 watts effective radiated power, that it'll hit your skin hard and it'll go into the rest of your body. And when it goes into your heart, the wavelengths get even smaller than they were in the air, a lot smaller. Now you got a wavelength that's about 50,000th of an inch long. You're getting down close enough now to where that rapid fire 30,000 times second radiation is going to resonate your body cells. So think about if you want to bring in technology that these guys are commonly reported okay, that they radiate over their FCC limits. There's a lawyer named Mr. Campanelli that I sent the information on to Mr. Blades last week, who was kind enough to talk to me, asked the rest of you to call me, and nobody did, and Ms. Payman didn't respond to my email. But if you don't test them, bring them in and force them to be tested to the FCC limits. FCC doesn't enforce. They just come up with rules. The city has to do that to protect their people, and it's been done before, and this is on the 4G stuff. Okay, I know this is because there hasn't been as much of this high-frequency 5G stuff go on. This lawyer who's dealt with thousands and thousands of cases of this said when they test them, they're 6 and 7 times over the FCC limits. Well, I'll tell you, the really high-frequency 5G stuff is going to be 100 times because I've looked at the numbers. And the limits that I was showing you at the last meeting are actually 1/10 of what the most current limit is, which I had not located at that time. You need to have your people talk to this New York lawyer who's got extensive experience with this, who knows the facts, who knows where they try to transgress and what they try to get away with, and all the little political tricks they try to play to snooker ignorant city councils into they can break here, because they need the high power. The high power is one of the factors that's going to give them this blazing fast speed, and that's the selling point for 5G. Now, like I said, this techno-idolatry that these people have around here, if you understood the kind they want to use 5G for, that's mostly all it is. Most people don't need this speed. Some institutions might need this speed. The hospital, big maybe, but they got to hook up to the trunk fiber optic line out on the street, and that's faster than 5G. So, maybe they probably don't even really have to have it into. So if you don't look carefully and you don't get good, competent counsel, and not the lawyers that we have, because they obviously don't know anything about it, then you're going to be subjecting everybody, every single person in this city to a serious health hazard that's going to be there every single day, hour, day of their life, and they are going to be the ones to pay for it.
You did it in 5 minutes. Thank you, sir.
And I'll say, I did contact that New York lawyer, got information from him, and I have passed it on to staff, so that way we can have that knowledge to make our recommendations on the ordinances on.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Peggy, you got another one?
Oh, okay.
Probably rebuttal.
Caller? Caller, please identify yourself and state your concerns.
Yes, my name is Stephen Morgan. Thank you for accepting the call, and I'm glad to see that the council is going to be looking into these 5G technologies. I will point to the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection. The update to their report has just come out. It is a wealth of information that dispels a lot of rumors about health. Most of those conclusions come out stating, I want to read one of them, I'm sorry. In summary, no effects of blank EMFs on the induction or development of cancer have been substantiated. They have no substantial impact in the lower frequencies. There was a conversation last meeting about the millimeter waves. That's more associated with 6G and above. So the concerns there are probably warranted. There is no zero risk ever. And the reason why I believe that if we're going to be talking to New York lawyers, we also ought to be talking to the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection is this specific reason. Their scientific expert group is composed of experts selected on the basis of their outstanding scientific credentials in a discipline relevant to non-ionizing radiation in biology, epidemiology, physics, biophysics, or medicine, and the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection Plan work tasks. They also have been not only looking at previous reports from WHO, and other scientific and medical positions, but they have also been updating their research into articles and submissions all the way into 2020. If you're going to delve into the health possibility and risks and then try to create an ordinance around that, I hope that you're going to use experts and not just hearsay. And I'll close with this. There was some comments about the studies that have been done with cancer-causing agents in rats. In this widely quoted study from the National Toxicology Program about cell phone radiation frequencies, scientists found that high exposure to 3G RFR led to some cases of cancerous heart tumors, brain tumors, and tumors in the adrenal glands of male rats. The study is a good object lesson in how hard it is to do science like this. As Real Science points out, the number of tumors detected were so small that they statistically could have occurred by chance, which may be more likely since they were only detected in male rats. Moreover, the level and duration of the RFR exposure well in excess of what any actual human would ever be exposed to. So I agree that we should allow 5G into the community. It is absolutely necessary for our economic improvement. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, is there any other calls or any other council comments? I don't see any calls. Okay, the next item we will go to is committee reports. Finance Committee. Oh, I'm sorry, what?
I did have just a quick, so what is our objective here with sending this to committee? Maybe I'm just feeling a little bit lost here.
To establish rules.
Yeah, to go through the ordinances
Well-
and see if we need to adopt any more ordinances for, and I think it would be good for us to adopt a testing policy as well, like
these-
other cities have done, to make sure that
and
it's
these-
being operated within the limits.
Are these ordinances, what's the intent behind the ordinances that we're looking into?
I think just making sure that we have ordinances in place to guide it in properly, and as well as making sure that, we don't have it on every single house.
Because my understanding is that the FCC already has guidelines and that they can come in and set and put 5G into the community without clearing it through us, right? So
Well,
my understanding is it to inhibit the advancement of 5G in the community?
No, it's just about the antenna placement and making sure they're operating within the limits. I sent an email with ordinances, and that's what I was thinking we would talk about and go through. Because there's many other cities on the books that have ordinances in place that we don't have in place now.
It's the only thing I see us doing.
Because we can't prohibit it from coming.
Okay. Because my recommendation would be to just set up a liaison between the city and the base so that when 5G telecommunications companies come in to apply 5G into the area, that they work with the base with some of the concerns that they had as far as interrupting or
Right, and I think that would be
cohesiveness there.
important as
But
part
I
of
would
our
see that
ordinance.
as the only thing that we are in a position to do. So I don't.
I don't know that that's the only thing that we can do. And I think that's why we can go through as a committee and look at what the options are and then bring them back in a concise fashion and say, we can do this option, we can do this option, we can do this option. What options do you want to do?
I just don't want to do anything that inhibits or limits something that is legal to be done.
Right, and that's exactly what I'm concerned about, is that this is geared more toward finding a way to inhibit or slow or prevent the progress of it. And I don't see us as being in a position to do that. Like I said, the only thing I see us in position to do would be to set up a proper communication through the base.
Well, then even to that end, the base wouldn't be able to make that sort of decision. I mean, it's a good conversation to have, so they can have their own concerns and see how things are going on in their community. Just more of a knowledge.
But that would be between them. That would be between those two parties. If there was if they need to work things out between the two of them so as not to create a problem, I mean, that would be something they could take it take it with each other and decide that. But that's not our position.
Is it not our position to guide things in the community like Lindsay's suggesting?
To do
Well,
what?
they-
And I don't mean that I'm not trying to come at you, Doc. I'm just saying, is it not our position as a city to guide everything? The way this community develops, it doesn't matter if it's an apartment complex or an extended stay hotel, it doesn't matter what it is. We guide it into the city and we zone and we make sure we're paying attention to where things are. We're not prohibiting business in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
That's more of how I'm seeing it. I'm also, so that's just comma, I think it'd be great to be in the economic committee because we got to be looking forward and thinking about these things.
Well-
Maybe even, maybe even being proactive.
Right.
about-
Well, I'm giving my perception of what is, being presented here.
What you're saying is in the spirit of things,
Is-
what you're hoping is that we do not prohibit.
Right. And that's why I think we talked about, and in Mr. O'Neill's letter, he talked about, I think we need to go through and review our zoning laws because these antennas are placed differently than the other antennas and make sure that we've got it covered in there on how it goes and how they're monitored. Because I don't think right now we don't have any ordinances that monitor them.
Right, because I think it is within.
And we have the capacity to do that?
And the cost and.
I think it's within our right to
I think that's part of
monitor.
what some of the cities have adopted is when they come in and pull the permits, they're paying for those tests.
No prohibit or inhibiting legal actions. I think the city has no right to do that.
Well, we've done it with other, like marijuana is technically legal, but we've inhibited that. So I think there's certain times when you do have
Okay.
to look at certain things.
All right, we will send that to committee then. All right, Finance Committee, Scott, we're going to meet,
We did not meet yet,
we're
so,
going to meet on the 3rd.
yes.
Okay. Infrastructure,
I don't think we have not met since the last time.
Economic Development,
We did meet and we reviewed Buxton and do you want to give is that what you're up here for?
No, I'm here for RCVB.
Okay. So economic development did meet. We had Buxton on the line and they went through the capabilities of the software and reviewing that.
We also had the earthquake recovery.
Oh, yes. And we had an update about the earthquake recovery, which is basically saying that it's proceeding forward. Maybe it's delayed slightly.
have we been sharing what Buxton's doing with those financing partners with us? Because
Yes.
one of them asked me, how come I don't know anything about what's going on? So as long as we're sharing with them,
When we had our call, we had the IWV EDC on, we had the RACVB on. I don't know that the chamber was on the last economic development call.
I think Tim was listening. I don't think he had any
Yeah,
comments.
but I know that then they were setting up an additional training conference call with all of those
Okay.
agencies.
Thank you. Okay, was that all? Parks and Rec?
Did not meet.
Now you are. Melissa, RACVB.
Hi, Madam Mayor, members of council. I have a quick update for you from the RACVB. We met on Wednesday morning. We wanted to report back that hotel occupancy has been up. The rates have been higher due to the fact that there are contractors on base. So you'll see a few of the hotels a little bit busier than normal in this strange time. We also have had lots of film inquiries due to the fact that our county is opening up faster than other places in California. Our place is attractive to producers and showrunners. So we have been looking at focusing more on future filming when they're eligible for group gatherings. Some are also looking into BLM land, so that we're just waiting for certain processes to go through when we open up a little bit more. But it's more about future planning. Lastly, just another update on safe practices for travelers when they do start to come in. We've been pushing out public service announcements, ads, and images, especially on social media, and the presence there was over 300,000 impressions online. And that's the end of my update. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Okay, other committees, reports, or commissions? I know Mike will have to give his report for when he comes back. Anybody else?
No, and the League California Cities hasn't met. Matter of fact, they've been all quiet on the Western Front since COVID started.
Okay. City managers report?
Yes, ma'am. Just to let you know that, city staff in conjunction with the IWEDC, Ridgecrest Realtors Association, China Lake Alliance, have all been working very closely to assist the contractors that are going to be bidding shortly on numerous repair contracts for the rehab of the base. We've still been working with them, trying to be able to provide them all the resources they need to be able to identify lodging, food, other outside employment resources. So one of the things the city's been focused on as a primary thing is developing a ordinance that will allow labor camps within our jurisdiction. We do have a draft of that ordinance that we'll be bringing to council on June 3rd. We have had at least 3 contractors contact the city who are interested in establishing a labor camp. Those conversations have been preliminary. We have provided them some numbers. I do plan that in the future, if any of these individuals wish to move forward, that those negotiations will be brought to closed session to council to discuss further. So we are working as diligently as we can to help accommodate the repair of the base in that way. So that is moving forward. I know that Mr. Pilchin and Heather Spurlock have done a significant amount of work in crafting that ordinance, making it specific for this type of situation, as well as ensuring that if we do allow or have requests for labor camps within our jurisdiction, that we have a fairly comprehensive path to be able to move forward. And those can be both either on city property or on private property. And then going to a couple topics that were asked, that you asked for me to answer from public comment. One was the Public Record Act request, specifically by the Daily Independent. Overall, we do respond to every Public Record Act request. A lot of those requests are vetted through our attorneys because they have information in them at times that has to be redacted or has to be reviewed to make sure that that information is released appropriately. I know that we've had some voluminous requests. I have one city clerk that does all the Public Record Act requests, as well as some from the police department, and we have some requests that require numerous hours to complete. The law only requires that we have to be diligent and we have to comply with the request over time. In other words, I don't have to have Ms. Charlon stop her job for 3 weeks to fill a request. We can do it over time. And going back to the request from the DI, we were within our time constraints on that in responding back to them. I know that the paper would have liked to have had those instantaneously for the purposes of their paper. However, there were some staff concerns about releasing people's personal cell phone information and email information to the public. So we were, a letter was sent to the DI stating we needed more time. Obviously, we really had a short window of time to even review, the 150 emails that came in. So that was the deal. And the accusation from Mr. Neal that we stonewall, a lot of the requests, go through the attorney's office, and we comply when we need to. Next one was the police department being more open to the public. We can periodically have the police department come in and make presentations to council. I will say that the police department's probably one of the most transparent and engaged with the community than any other department within the city, and I would probably say with any other entity within the city. They currently have 14,000 people that follow them on Facebook. The police department puts out public service information all the time. Specifically, we had that erroneous, alert from the USGS regarding a pending earthquake. The chief contacted USGS. We got some information on what happened, and we posted it. So I think that the police department does an excellent job. Now, if the council at any time would like, the chief to, provide, information on a more frequent basis, absolutely, we can do that. But I do think that he does keep the community, and his staff does keep the community quite informed of all the trends within the community. Now, I just believe that, I think everybody in the town knows exactly where the police department posts its information. I think by the numbers of having, now I would say not all 14,000 people that are following us on Facebook are from Ridgecrest, but when you have 50% of your population following you on Facebook, I think that you have a pretty good following. Next issue was the opening of council chambers. Yes, I'd love to open the council chambers as soon as possible. I do believe that will be probably with an early stage 3. Staff is going to be working on trying to help with sanitation improvements within our building. We plan to use the grant, hopefully, to be able to put automatic door openers, sneeze shields for staff within the building. And obviously within here, I would assume that as soon as the governor lifts the congregation order, and who knows, maybe that will be soon enough if they open up the churches, I would say that it's good for us to open up the chambers. I think that right now the direction of the state is that there's still no public gatherings, and so we're still following the guidelines. And as soon as those guidelines are lifted, yes, we will open the chambers, because I do believe we need to be open and transparent. And I think that us as a city were the ones that adapted the quickest to COVID-19, and were the ones that got a significant amount of information out to the public. We continue to meet as a body, and we continue to show leadership in that way in the community, that we were still engaged in the business of the public. Youth programs I mentioned earlier. I do believe with the opening or the increase in upper stage 2 or upper phasing of stage 2, we'll be able to open our summer programs. That's going to be my recommendation. And as soon as we can open up any other programs for the children, we will absolutely do it as soon as possible. And that is my report.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, future agenda items. Okay, mayor and council comments. Anybody?
I had one. I just want to make sure that before we send the letter out, that you could send it for us to read through, if we could.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any others?
Yet one quick comment. It's more of a PSA. And that's that this is coming out from the DMV. DMV has extended the expiration date of non-commercial driver's license for customers 69 years old and younger, with expiration dates between March 1st, 2020 and July 31st, 2020. These licenses are now valid through July 31st, 2020. As an option, customers may request a temporary driver's license extension to be emailed to them by visiting the DMV website and completing an online form.
Okay.
I know, it reads odd, doesn't it? I'll read. Oh, okay. Well, let me help you out then. Let me help you out then. The DMV has extended the expiration date of non-commercial driver's licenses for customers 69 years old and younger, with expiration dates between March 1st, 2020 and July 31st, 2020. These licenses are now valid through July 31st, 2020.
Thank you for that information.
Hey, I'm here.
I fall into that category, and I am on a legally expired license.
Nice.
Okay,
Here for you.
so, I'm sorry, did you have more? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, ma'am.
Okay, then we're going to adjourn. Thank you all.
I did was thank you for IT staff for putting in all those hours.
Yeah. Great job.
was supposed to.